It's banging.
It's Hotline League episode 160. We have a new overlay. If you're
We're not
watching
in
the
Miami
video,
anymore.
we weren't. I mean, this is like a '70s look on the stuff, but yeah, it's first time in a while. Again, shout out to Benson, who's been doing all our stuff for years and years, but decided to mix it up, and I like it because we've been shifting towards this kind of whatever. Anyway, it's Hotline League episode 160. I'm joined right now by my constant co-host Mark Zimmerman. How's it going, Mark?
Good. I literally just finished season 3 of The Sinner right before coming on here, and that season sucked. It was like a first year undergrad philosophy student watched season 1 of True Detective and was like, I'll do my own version, and made this show. It is so trash. There's just it's terrible. Terrible. Season 1, season 2 are great though, apparently. So
fantastic. I don't even know what The Sinner is. What is it on?
it's on Netflix. It's a net cable show, though. I think it was like USA, and they bought the rights or something to put it on Netflix. Season 1, season 2.
Season 1 and 2 apparently were good. Did you just skip to season 3? Is this why you didn't
Actually
like it? Does
watch
it just
season...
not make any sense?
No. It's kind of like anthology, so each season kind of stand on its own, though there is character arc between them. But like season 1, season 2, Ashley watched, and she was like, "This is so good," and I was like, "Okay, wait for me for season 3." And then I watched season 3, and it's terrible. And if you look at the reviews, it's the same thing. And it was just like, ugh. It was really cool because you started at the end of a crime. It was like some crazy ass crime happens, and you're like, what just happened? And like you follow the detective trying to figure out. This one is just not like that. It's just nothing about it is good. Nothing good.
Well, besides Mark and his struggles, we also have, and this is great because we were able to book him days and days in advance. I think this might have been the longest booking we've ever had, Spawn. Spawn, thanks so much for booking so far in advance. Welcome to the show as our guest once more. How's it going?
I'm pretty good, to be honest. Like, obviously, it was a rough day for me and my boys. We unfortunately fell to Cloud9 Academy. But in saying that, we played like our cleanest early game in a long time. We had a 3,000 gold lead and 3 dragons before we threw it all in the bin. And like we finished second in Academy, which whilst isn't the first, which was all of our goals, certainly is a long step. A big step in the right direction. So we're pretty pumped. I'm pretty psyched. I'm good vibes as well because I finally have my flights booked back to Australia. So I'll get to see my family pretty soon, and then I'll come back and do it all over again.
Wait, when do you go?
So I go on the 26th of Feb, so I go in like 9 days.
Okay.
Because Academy like has this big break until Proving Grounds, and we'll have like some tournaments and stuff, but I'll just
like 6 weeks or something, right?
Yeah, so it's like 6-week break, and then then we'll come back and we'll do Proving Grounds, and we'll win that thing.
Well, first off, thank you, Spawn, for coming on the show. I also want to say, for anybody that's confused, we did have to do this show on Wednesday because of some technical issues, so I appreciate Mark especially accommodating that. Also, I am officially just becoming a crazed mountain man during the winter of this pandemic. You might see just how insane.
Don't say winter.
It looks... What? Don't say winter?
You're in LA. You don't have winter. It's not winter.
It's the season. It's during the winter of... it's a time
I'm becoming
of year.
a crazy mountain man in the winter of 63 out. Drops down to 50.
Well, actually, I do want to talk about that
maybe.
in a second.
Whoa.
But yeah, so I'm trying to figure out... I'm somewhat being encouraged to keep the hair really long and wild. Some of the comments on the YouTube videos are like, Travis actually looks a lot better during the pandemic than he did before. So I don't know how to take that, but the beard is getting out of control. Also, some shout outs. One to Game Fuel. We'll have a fun little segment thingy that we're going to do later on. But it's good to have them back, and thank you to them for the announcement last week. Secondly, I want to shout out Alienware. I want to do a special shout out for them because and sort of have this be a little bit more broadly encompassing. So a lot of people might not know, but Alienware is actually headquartered in Austin. And right now in Austin, there have been, in other parts of Texas, there's a ridiculous winter cold snap, freezing situation, blizzard, etc. And I think they have it now, though there's some concern about whether or not they'll have it to continue. Spawn expertly holding up the product while I give them a shout out. But some of my friends at Alienware have gone like close to 48 hours without power in freezing cold temperatures, really difficult to get around. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to all my friends at Alienware that are going through this stuff right now, and everybody else in that part of the country. It's really scary right now, and just talking to some of them as they're, one of them, for instance, was just huddled up around her fireplace for a couple days. It's pretty spooky. So heart is with Alienware right now, and all the folks that are in Austin, and everybody else in that situation as well. Anyway, Spawn, I promise we'll do a longer plug for them where we can talk about the product, and you'll be able to showcase all that. I appreciate that, by the way, though. Anyway, let's get into the news. So I'm kind of happy that we were able to do a bit of a delay on the show because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. One, obviously, this past weekend we had TSM. TSM's resurgence, I think, is the biggest story out of the past weekend, but on top of that, I know there's been some Academy stuff. Actually, great to have Spawn on because Academy just settled. All week long, we've had the teams doing media conferences. We're at 6 out of the 10 of them, and I've been asking them a ton of questions about import rules and restrictions and the ones that they want lifted. You can go find all the statements from all the different teams that have made them so far on my Twitter. But even Mark and Spawn were talking a little bit about this. I almost kind of want to give Spawn like a pass on this because I don't want to put him in a situation where he has to contradict his co-CEO of Team Liquid, Steve Aronset, who just made a statement a short time ago. But I don't know. Mark, you said you were watching some of that.
I think I've watched all the ones that you've clipped out. I might have missed some.
It's
I've
been
watching
6 so far of them. So yeah.
And I was watching the Reddit thread and things like that. So obviously, I'm very interested in this conversation. I'm looking forward to having it. And if Spawn wants to go, I don't know, get dinner or something, maybe he does that.
Oh, he's gone. Okay.
While you and I rant. Ooh, he's
maybe mute yourself.
Some tea?
She just moves out of the sound. You just hear all this crazy stuff. Well, first off, is there anything else I'm forgetting that happened this week, Spawn or Mark, or anything that was big or any big discussions?
I mean, Dignitas, if you're talking about 3-0 teams, TL went 1 and 2. They look like total flops.
No, not true. Sandbagging. We're an LPL team now. We sandbag.
There you go. You guys play like it a little bit with all the kills in lane when it matters and then dying all the time when it doesn't.
I mean, there was it depends. Like, are you talking about Premier League? Because Premier League, Mark's right. Like, everyone's kind of beating everyone, and Dignitas is winning, which is kind of cool.
Is that what you're calling it? Premier League? I think it's called the LCS.
Like as in like the top of the North American scene. Travis is what I was trying to say. Like the Premier League of North America. But like what I was going to say is like there's this. I don't know if you are keeping up with amateur, but a couple of amateur teams knocked off Golden Guardians Academy, which was pretty big news down where I'm from. Also, I think that there's been a lot of movement in Academy. Luger came over for 100 Thieves. He looks to goods, and Papa Smithy seems to have been doing a good job recruiting once again in the 80 carry position.
Brox's Visa.
Brox's Visa, that's big, yeah. Yep. Oh, did we talk about
finally showing up?
RJS versus POB? Like, I mean, maybe we can hit on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited.
I would definitely want to see what fans think about that too.
Yeah. Well,
RJS looks good, man. He's fine.
Yeah, it's Pope, by the way. You can just call him Pope. But I do like the idea that you're using both of their 3-letter RGS POB. I think we can talk a little bit about... Oh, Fifth Flaren is in my chat. A very funny situation. We finally start talking about dig stuff, and then he pops up. He's here to scope out the questions that I'm going to ask him tomorrow during the Dignitas stuff.
Who, Invert?
No, Fifth Flaren.
Legendary Counter-Strike.
Dignitas. Dignitas gentleman. Anyway, shall we... First off, Spawn, maybe I'm putting you on the spot. Maybe I should have asked you this beforehand during our time. But how comfortable are you talking about owners pushing for import rule changes? Like, you want to...
Like, I mean, I can talk, but I just don't have an opinion. Because what you have to understand is I'm from
a safe place.
So, like,
to be.
I just don't give a shit. Like, to be honest, like, the thing is like, I'm an academy head coach. Like, I am in no way qualified to talk about this. Like, you might get me fired, Travis. So, like, I just genuinely don't have an opinion. Like, okay, that's the truth.
During any of the danger moments, I'll just
I'll hit the button that says mute on my
I'll just
microphone.
go like this. There we go.
Yes.
We're having connection issues with Spawn right now. He seems to have disappeared. Okay.
But what I will say is, like, I have seen some very measured approaches, and I think that it's being blown out of proportion a little bit. And whatever Steve said is, I'm backing 100%. That's my official statement for Hotline League.
I mean, are you okay? That's your whatever he says. That's your stance. Are you interested in defending that stance?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
I plead the fifth.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mark, why don't you and I talk about this for a second then?
Okay. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts to give about this. And I think one of the reasons that it is extra somewhat annoying to me is because I feel like a lot of the points that I've been making for a long period of time about the NA scene and some of the things that we have to deal with has somehow become an argument point in favor of removing, or not removing, but at least altering, as all the owners are fans of saying now.
Removed. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
So like, look, there's a lot to unpack with this, which is why it's so annoying. And like, I don't want to overstate like my importance in the league scene. I don't think that I'm saying that these conversations all started because of me, but like, I actually don't know anyone who was complaining about, and I say complaining, like calling attention to the fact that our server size is vastly smaller than the other major regions. I don't know if anyone was talking about that before I was. Maybe other people were, but I've been talking about this since like 2017, 2016.
No, we had a Hotline League where we pulled up. You did like a whole deep dive where you were pulling up
and
stats
that wasn't
on the show. Yeah.
And that wasn't even the first time I talked about it either.
Yeah.
Like I had been talking about it for a long time. And then like 2 years ago, I started talking about like, hey, teams in Academy, stop bringing in like kind of washed players and go find younger talent that's still on solo queue in other regions and bring them over. And now I'm hearing both of these points used in this kind of, changing the import rule. And these are arguments that I've been making for so long. And I'm like, this is not where I thought this conversation was going to lead. So it slightly is, upsetting to me. That's like, these are things that I've talked about for a long time that I think are important things to talk about. But if the way they're going to get used is to alter the import rule, I'm a little surprised.
I mean, I think what is clear to me, or I think what's interesting is, and I'm fascinated to see how the Final Four go. I think so far Steve and Parth, maybe with more points towards Steve, are the only ones that have given like a straightforward answer. And it's very funny to see everyone kind of try to dance around it, because I think they know that it's very unpopular. And as seen by my polling, my very scientific polling on Twitter and YouTube, and yet all of them want to kind of give this answer of like, well, whatever. By the way, it's unclear to me that, and I think this is crazy, I don't know if there's a single team owner who is willing to say at this point in time that they don't want the import rule changed. I think they're all going to take the stance of, well, we're happy to collaborate with people, or
I'm just saying it should be looked at.
Yeah. Like the FlyQuest, and so like today I pressed FlyQuest on this stuff. And I'm not trying to pick fights with anybody, but like Trisha's stance was like, hey, we think that it's not as like black and white as is it removed or is it kept. We can kind of change, we can change it. And then when I did a follow-up question on like, okay, what does that look like? Their GM Nick said, one of the things he said is like, okay, well maybe one of the things is like these smaller regions, sort of what we did with OCE. Here, I'll bring Spawn back so that since we're talking about OCE, kind of what we did with OCE, we could do with other regions like Vietnam and Japan and these kind of other, what we've changed the language on them a ton. It's like wild card, emerging regions, etc.
Yeah, minor region. Who knows?
Yeah. And so like that's the first time I've heard something that isn't just lifted. And even in Steve's answer, Steve kind of made it try to sound like he wasn't saying
remove it,
but then didn't really clarify what it would be to. So I honestly think that, and from what I've heard, they are all pushing the Riot to remove it. And so it's just weird to me to sort of see the way everybody's dancing around it.
I mean, yeah, it's not weird. It's kind of expected. No one wants to. Everyone's like, oh, I think it should be looked at. There's some antiquated things about it. Maybe we could do this. But when you're ever like, so what is the thing you want to see?
Yeah, but it's not like this is going to be some secret. Like if they get their way, everyone's gonna know. It's like you have to own it, right? Because if it actually ends up going through, everyone's gonna know. It's not like you're gonna be able to get away with people. Oh, it just so happens.
Travis, you're just trying to dodge the fire as long as you can.
Yeah,
right? There's no reason to set yourself on fire before you need to be on fire.
Isn't it strange that all of G2 is now playing for Cloud9? Wasn't there an import rule? What happened there?
No, like one thing I will say, like I'm not going to wade into all this, like the kind of import rule stuff, right? But I do think like saying they're like trying to dodge the fire is not really like genuine, because like from what my understanding of the situation is like Jack and Steve went on Thorin's show and literally laid out their argument like pretty black and white. Like I feel like if there was going to be a fire, the fire would have already started, right? I don't think they're skirting around the issue. I think like from what I saw of Steve's stuff, if I'm just going to like talk about what I saw in the interview, not whether it's my opinion or not, is like he pretty much said like what you're saying, Travis, is like he doesn't necessarily agree with the current rule and he wants to be a part of a conversation of what a future rule could look like. Now, I think like those conversations can happen behind closed doors because he doesn't want to be put in a situation where it's like one of the biggest teams in the LCS is lobbying for something outside of the scope of a Riot boardroom, because I think that's unfair to the owners in the league as well.
So the thing about the Steve and Jack conversation that happened, months ago in the off season was it didn't pick up as much traction, and it wasn't like it was presented towards Riot. It felt like, oh, these are just two people who are sharing their opinion about something that exists in the scene,
And that Reddit thread, I think that was the number one thing talked about in that Reddit thread too.
Right, like it was a big issue, but it wasn't not issue, but it was a talking point. But I think when people realize that, like, no, this isn't just them sharing their opinion. This is something they are, as you're saying, or as it sounds like, have lobbied against Riot for, saying, hey, we think this rule should be removed. Then I think the community takes a lot bigger interest in being like, whoa, what are you guys trying to do? And the fact that no one seems to be clearly saying what they want is making it, I think, a little annoying for a fan to be like, so wait, what are you guys pushing for exactly? Do you want the rule removed? Do you want to say we want these rules and stuff? And I
was using a sports analogy, right? So if I was use a sports analogy, like if like the playing group, the ownership group, and the NBA all go into a meeting and they talk about how they're going to set a new salary cap, like they don't give a shit about what the public opinion is, right?
So first off, Spawn, LCS made by many. Not made by 10 and
in a boardroom.
Chris Greeley in a boardroom, okay? Secondly,
but I think some things do have to be decided like that. Like, to be completely fair, like I do think that some things, before they're presented, do need to be well thought out and well constructed.
Yeah, so I think something like lock-in makes a lot of sense to like hold back from public conversation. I think when you are changing... Like I've been.
All I'm saying is that like the owners have come out and said stuff that have got them flamed in the past. I don't think they're dodging the question because they don't want to be flamed by the public. Like I just don't think that's a fair statement to make. Like as I said, like I don't have a horse in this race. I'm an academy coach, but like I'm just saying that like, I'm not sure that they're dodging it to not get flamed.
No, I mean, but okay. First off, regardless, I appreciate you taking the stance because it's not just Mark and I being like, oh yeah, we're both right. But secondly.
Sorry, I'm getting a little bit of lag.
I would just say, can you hear me okay, Spawn?
Yeah,
I can hear you.
It's on my end for sure.
Mark, by the way, because Mark and I live near each other, I assume that if something, Hotline League will never happen if the internet goes out for one of us, because it'll go out.
Let's not pretend Spectrum's ever going to make any fucking sense. All right, I could lose power, you could be fine. Who knows?
Okay, so Spawn, just to that point, like, here's my concern. What this does is it's not about adding going exclusive with a certain streaming partner. It's not about pitting a tournament in the beginning of the year. It's a battle for the soul of our league. I just like the league changes fundamentally in a world where there are no requirements on how many North American players you can have and you can field. I mean, it's entirely reasonable that in that world we could send 15 players from other regions to Worlds, one team of which could end up being an entire, like a team that just came over that year, right? LMQ style from before. I mean, we've seen it. Mm-hmm. So I think that is why it's a situation where I am trying so hard to drag this out into the light, because not just fans, but I think pundits, coaches, GMs, people that are working in academy or amateur, like all these people should have I think they should have a voice in this and be able to field it.
Okay, cool. So that part I can speak to, because like I'm not going to touch the import thing, but what I will touch is a current level of skill in academy. And I think that anyone that has watched academy this split will say the current level of skill in academy is actually quite good. If you look at any of the top 3 teams right now, be that Cloud9 Academy, TL Academy, or 100 Thieves Academy, which I think have proven across the split that they are the 3 best teams, I would say that those games are of equal level too. And like someone actually wrote this on Twitter the other day, and I thought it was really well put together, is it makes sense that the bottom of academy is going to be competitive with amateur, and it makes sense that the bottom of the LCS is going to be competitive with the top of academy. And I think that there are 15 players within those teams that could be put into a lot of the LCS teams and would either be equal to or upgrades over some of the players that are currently there. So I would say that are those junglers?
No, go ahead. Sorry, finish your thought.
Yeah, so I think that like the academy system and how it has been changed by Riot and the amateur changes, and I actually wrote a email to Riot today, have been good, and I welcome the tournament structure and everything like that. And I think it is a really positive step in the right direction for North America to be able to upskill as a region.
Are any of the junglers on those teams better than Jankos?
Well, like I don't think that you should evaluate rules based on the top 1%.
But I'm just saying, like, it's exciting to hear that there's folks that are down there that are like going to potentially be great next year or the year after. I don't know if they get a spot if we're opening up the floodgates to LEC, LCK, and LPL.
But let's be realistic, Travis. If we open up the floodgates right now, and like I'm just talking about academy, right? Who like does Golden Guardian strategy like? Because I've seen a lot of sensationalism, and I just hate sensationalism. Like, does Golden Guardian's roster change if you open up the floodgates? Like maybe. Like I don't know. Like I don't think so. So I just think it's like it's not all or the other.
Right. I think obviously people who are in favor of the import rule only want North American players as well. Like no one's actually arguing for that. No one wants North American players. No one's actually xenophobic or anything. I even think the import rule could have a name change to help frame the conversation better, because that's one thing that people often say is like, you're just scared of other people or something. It's like, no, we just want homegrown talent. And in the Champions League, in one of the threads I was reading about this, in the Champions League, it's called a homegrown rule. And in that rule, players who play for that team, region, whatever, for 3 years under the age of 21 technically count as homegrown, even if they're imports or whatever, to use league terms. If you got a young player from solo queue from China or Korea who played from 18 to 21 or some age group, they would then become an NA resident. Like, I think there's a ton of rules that are worth exploring, that I'm actually interested in exploring, to Steve's point about antiquated rules and whatnot, that I think it's a really cool conversation to have, but no one is actually having that conversation. And that's what's bugging me about it, is like there is a real conversation, but everyone just says, ooh, I think it's time to look at them. And like no one's forcing you to like hard commit to any of these alternative solutions. So like, why is that not happening? Because all we heard before was they want to remove the rule, and now that it's coming to light, people are saying, oh, it's time to look at it. But there's not any nuance of suggested rule changes that I think could help.
And to be clear, Spawn, like I know I'm not in the room on this stuff with like when Riot is talking to the owners, but I have not heard anybody in the conversations I've had with my sources. It is never like, hey, the owners are interested in opening a committee to explore the various ways in which the import rule could be altered to better benefit all parties involved. What I hear is they want to get rid of this thing because they think it's going to bring better success, and it's going to make things cheaper for them, bring salaries down. So that is the struggle, and like that is what I've been struggling with too, where in these conversations with the owners, or these conferences with the owners, nobody is saying, like, I don't expect like a here's my lecture on presentation or changes, but like when everybody's just like, well, you know, we think that talent can come from a lot of different places, and some of that is North America.
You can just,
and some of it is other places, and we think that we should always be looking to be global and thinking about how things work. Like everybody should go look at the fucking 2-minute clip of me asking Ari about this from Immortals. It is insane. There's like it is actually so difficult to gain any knowledge of what this person's stance is on the topic.
We're all relatively intelligent people in this call. You can tell when someone is trying to tiptoe around a topic. And like it is so clear that there's tiptoeing going on.
I'm not tiptoeing. I'm just a dumbass, Mark.
No, I don't think not you. I mean,
yeah.
I mean the owners. When Travis is asking these questions, you just hear the tiptoeing. You can just see them going like this around the topic and trying to figure out how to navigate the question.
I think Steve and TSM. I don't want to paint them all that way because I think Steve and TSM,
fair.
and they do it to various degrees, right? Some of them are really. Like the Immortals answer was really bad. Like even if he was trying to duck it, it was just really bad. But like if you know, others I think give longer reasons, but nobody is trying to actually have a conversation about it. They're all trying to avoid it as much as possible, and that's what's aggravating to me.
Yeah. And what were you chat knowing? I want to hear this.
No, they called Steve a coward. Now I have to ban them. I have to use my moderator power for ban.
Steve's not a coward.
You could time them out. I don't think Steve is a coward. And in fact, I would say this. If any owner wants to come on the show and have a conversation with Mark and I about this, we are happy to do that. Like, I think that's actually part of the reason Mark and I are so frustrated is that there isn't any conversation about this. You know, I think it's great that Jack and Steve said this on Thorne's show previously. And by the way, I found out after the fact that both Nicole and Trisha had said this stuff on an Ovly show, Good Morning Esports, back in August. So, like, this has been brought up previously, but now that people have talked about it, let's keep talking about it. Tell me why you think this is going to work or why it should be different or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, like, so Steve was someone, and same with the TSM, gave explicit things that they were interested in about the rules, right? Like Steve was talking about, you have to be required to have a certain amount of like payment increase to homegrown talent or something, some form of like
some sort of investment in growing,
yeah, something like that. He was saying, you know, like don't just remove the rule, but also have these other rules come in with it. That's an example of a good answer. TSM, though I don't agree with some of the reasoning that they were using, but like talking about wanting to use this as a tool to also be able to scout players easier from other regions, so you don't feel like you're using up one of your import slots because it's a limited resource then to bring in a less proven player than just the highest level imports that you can find, right? So there has been some conversation about it, to be fair, that I think could go a little further. Not that I always agree with everything they're saying, but at least like those are examples of like what I want to see. Like what do you think you can do with this other than buy 5 great players and not need to, you know, really do anything.
And the other thing that I'll just address really quickly, because it actually like pertains to my role as opposed to this conversation, is a lot of people were like really quick to point out like who has amateur teams and who only has academy teams and who is investing on what and whatnot. And the one thing I will say about Team Liquid is like I was brought on as like academy head coach, but also in charge of getting my head around, you know, what future growth potential and development could look like. I saw a couple of people being like pretty critical of Team Liquid in that regard. Like I'm been in America for 2 months. Like there's just no way I could have feasibly built a good academy team and a good amateur program in that time. Like these things take time and like you have to be able to do it with care. But Steve came out on record like about the North America talent and was like pretty clear during that interview as well that he expected Team Liquid to do better and he holds himself to a high standard for that. And like that's definitely something that I need to do better in as well. Like, you know, we've gone from having a North American academy team that wasn't where we wanted to be last year. Now we finished second in the regular season. You know, we'll continue to evaluate amateur and what that can look like. And we'll continue to invest in these people. And I think that, you know, it's a really great example. I always use Bob Jenkins as my example because this is a guy that we've been willing to boot camp in China for the World Championship, take him as an actual sub, show him like the inside of the organization. Then we take him to Korea over the summer. And now he has most solo kills in the academy. And he's like an absolute monster in the top lane. He's had one of the best splits that I've seen out of a player. So he's someone that, you know, I'm really excited about. And I think that, you know, young from 100, X last year, now coming on to Liquid Academy as well, and us using scouting grounds in that way. So it's certainly something that we will continue to look at as Liquid, and it's something that really excites me because anyone that knows me from OS knows that, like, you know, I did my own scouting grounds in OS when we didn't have a scouting grounds. It was called like Spawns In-Houses. Like, I'm really interested in talent development, and it's something that Liquid has like started to invest in and is looking to do as well.
Yeah, I think on that point about the amount of effort it takes to build out academy and things like that, with staff often feeling like they have decent turnover, you know, like if you were going to
Well, I just didn't know the scene. Like, I would have loved to have done it, but I just, like, they're like, what about this guy? And I'm like, I've never watched amateur in North America in my life, dude. Like, I need some time.
Right. I mean, not even just you, but other teams.
Well,
like,
well, you don't sound very qualified for this position, Spawn. That's what I'm picking up here. I didn't know anything about what I was hired to do, and I have to learn.
Hey, man, I came second in Academy, all right? We're doing okay so far, Travis. Don't you play me.
But I think one of the things that I have been talking about in the past was, kind of related to this importing for Academy and amateur scene stuff, which I had said, people could do this right now. Like, there's no reason that this can't be done right now, which is why I find it to be a pretty weak argument. There are some instances of, like, minor-ish region teams or players who are doing well in their region coming over, like you, God, there's a couple other players so I just can't think of right now who people did try, but they weren't like fresh from solo queue. Like, we're going to try and develop this guy who's Challenger Korea player. Maxi, who was Scarlet? Was that one as well from Immortals from a while ago?
Oh, yeah.
There's been times that it's kind of been tried, but usually it's like you're pulling up from a scene where there's already this player's success, and it's still not really like true development of untested player, like, which I think is something that there's no reason you can't do it right now, other than the fact that importing and actually getting visas for people who don't have a career is actually really difficult to do, as I understand it. Like, it's hard enough to get Broxa over here, like world finalist Broxa with the greatest resume you could ever hope for and import, basically, let alone like this is this 18-year-old kid who looks good in solo queue, it's probably hard to get good visas and stuff to actually do this. So that's one of the reasons where, like, that idea of wanting to remove the import rule to help build out Academy, I just can't buy it. It just doesn't sound like a real thing.
I've got 3 real quick things on this before we get into calls. One, everyone should check Run It this week. It comes out tomorrow. It's a little bit delayed because we talk about how much the league has changed over the past year, and there's some really crazy stats in there about how much turnover we have had in the LCS year over year. Shout out to the to Blue Jays podcast, by the way, because I watched a little bit of it, which is where I saw one of these stats that I then went to Tim and said we should do.
Stole the segment from.
Secondly, wait, you're just laughing at DeMonte trolling Papa in the chat?
No, I'm laughing at you stealing Blue Jays segment.
Yeah. I get all my best ideas from him. Secondly, I hope that if Riot and the owners are considering doing this, that they find some serious data to back up that this is the right move. If this was the NBA, for instance, they would be doing all sorts of market research and studies around such a big change. I have done one Twitter poll and one YouTube poll that seem to indicate that the vast majority of the LCS fans do not want this. A tiny amount of fans actually do. And by the way, Spawn is putting his face in his hands right now because it's ridiculous that my Twitter and YouTube polls would be some sort of like a data that should be used. I'll tell you what, I think it's probably more data and research that's been conducted on fans around this topic than the owners and Riot. I would be surprised if they've done anything like that.
I'm out. I refuse to comment. The fifth is being pleaded again.
Reggie's in the chat. He says, I'm too busy playing games.
Reggie
Cloud
and I played a game the other day. He doesn't know, but he was a Maokai support. Shout out to Reginald.
Third, here's what I was going to say, and now very awkward that Reggie has showed up in the chat. Third, I was going to say, I don't want to say, or I don't want to depict these team owners as people that are just greedy people who are just interested in money. Because if they were just interested in money, they'd be running profitable organizations. So I think that I think a lot of team owners actually think that this is an important thing to do and that they think that this is the path forward. It's just a disagreement on what the actual path should be. And I'd be happy to have conversations with any team owners who want to, live streamed with Mark if he wants to be a part of it, or whoever else to talk about this.
Mark doesn't want to be a part of it. Look at Mark. He's already checked out.
I do. I mean, I'm reading Twitch chat because it's funny, but I actually do care about this a lot because, like I said, I see arguments that, like, I feel like I brought to attention now being used in this kind of conversation to push for removing the import rule. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Server pop issues will not be like, no, you can't just bring in, we have infrastructure problems too. Even if you brought in the best players from each region. They're going to get worse here right now, everybody. That's a bigger problem in my mind than, the just raw number of talent. Like, I think there's other issues. And I'm like, oh, God, no.
Reggie, by the way, while you're in chat, I'll say I missed you during the TSM press conference. Every other team has had executive leadership, at least one member of it, at the part of the press conference.
Travis is just like the real going hard.
I wish I had seen you, Reggie, because it would have been
episode, chat.
It would have been great to talk to you there. But I realize you're doing the stonk stuff. So, anyway, I love you, Andy Din. Okay, so I'm sure we'll keep talking about this. We'll probably take some calls. It doesn't need to dominate the whole evening, especially because we got Spawn here. Let's talk about.
I might find one, but generally, I think conversation's probably going to move more towards actual performances and stuff from this week.
Yeah, I think one or two. Obviously, Mark and I stole the first 20 minutes of the show to talk about it because we were very passionate about it. But I'll have more coverage on my YouTube channel, so stay tuned on that. All right, Mark.
Yeah, you need to fill for me because I'm just starting to go through. And
here's how the show works. It's a call-in show. You wouldn't think that, because we've just been ranting it for a while and putting Spawn in an uncomfortable place. But if you want to call in with a take, go ahead and join our Discord. It's discord.gg/Travis. You can do !Discord in the chat to get it. You can put your take in the Pleb Topics channel or the Subtopics channel if you are a sub. And if you are, thank you for being a sub. A little bit better of a chance of getting caught if you are in the Subtopics channel. Please don't spam your topic. And it looks like Mark has got our first caller here right now. So, JNT, you've been on the show before, right? Didn't you debate Mahmood?
Yeah.
You did? Okay. Well, welcome back.
I want to know 100% win rate.
Yeah. Oh, you declared yourself the victor of that. I didn't.
Well, didn't chat did a vote.
Oh, chat did a vote. Okay, that's right. I forgot about that.
So it's just based off the respected opinion of Twitch chat.
Very good. Well, they have great opinions. So, what do you want to talk about on the? Oh, remind me where you're calling from.
San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio.
Yeah.
Oh, how are you doing?
Yeah, we've been rough out here. We just got like our power consistently back since about like 5 p.m. today.
Okay.
Basically lost power on Sunday night and basically had none.
Jeez. Hearing some of the stories has been really spooky. So I'm glad to hear that you've got power back. Hopefully, I know a lot of people then were having issues where they get power back and then the pipes burst in their home. So hopefully everything's good for you. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
Basically just wanted to talk about how I think TSM is getting a bit overhyped moving into this next week of LCS. I think after their 3-0 week, which I won't discredit, I think they played really well. They played pretty well in 2 of the 3 other games. But I think it's definitely looking up for TSM, but I think they have a really difficult week ahead of them. And I think they'll go 0-3 most likely next week. And kind of how this season they've tended to struggle against the more faster, aggressive teams. I feel like when TSM is able to play their style and they're able to play a very controlled game where Power of Evil is able to scale up on his control mages and there's not a ton of fighting or skirmishing in the early game, TSM finds a lot more success when they're able to, I guess, get into more of their comfort zone. But when teams come at them fast, like in the C9 game where they sent a bunch of pressure topside early in the game, and even in the CLG game from week 1, they really struggled when the game got fast-paced very quickly.
So this weekend they've got EG, 100 Thieves.
EG, 100 Thieves, and Dig.
Yeah, there's a bunch of these teams, TL, TSM, and Dig, have schedules with 2 top teams in the coming weekend. So 2 of their 3 games should be pretty tough. So I think it's a pretty interesting weekend for a couple of those teams.
To be clear, we're only allowed to talk about teams within the context of their last 3 games on this show. So I appreciate you trying to add larger context here, but it's just not what we're interested in changing. No, I'm just kidding. Spawn, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was, and then you interrupted me. So if you want to keep talking, that's cool.
Well, I thought, maybe you've talked a lot on this show and expressed a lot of your opinions so far. So I thought maybe I would get a chance.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Travis. What I was going to say, though, is like TSM's wins the last 3 games were like 29 minutes, 32 minutes, like 33 minutes. So like it's not like they're playing an incredibly long game, right? Like average league time, and like Mark said, knows this better than I because he actually reads the stats documents, whereas I just like gloss over them real quickly. But like I think like global League of Legends has been like 32 and a half minutes the last 2 years, Mark, and like we're pretty happy with like that being the average game time. So it's not like they're winning games or losing games in incredibly fast or slow fashion. Like they're pretty on global average right now, and I would say that is a good sign. I would also say that they have, even though I do agree with you, Power of Evil on the scaling mage picks historically has been an absolute monster. He had a really good Syndra game, which is like a really great sign because Syndra is one of those quicker champions that does come online really well. So I'm a little bit of the opposite. Like I was pretty impressed by TSM. I actually really enjoyed LS takes that they played some really great League of Legends. To be able to be a powerhouse like Team Liquid, obviously you have to play it phenomenally with a little bit of luck as well. But yeah, I think they're actually, I think they look pretty good. And the other pick that I really liked that they found was getting Sword Art back onto the Pantheon. I thought that was a really great move from whoever is drafting from there, whether it's Pio, Path, like whoever's doing the draft over there. Pantheon and Bard, like 2 much quicker supports, right, than what he's been playing. So like I thought that they actually took some steps in the right directions, and TSM fans, which I was previously one of, should be very excited.
Can I ask the caller, JNT, what do you think makes them overrated? Like, what is the bar that's like people saying that they're a top team again, or just that they're not a dumpster fire? What makes it overrated?
Well, I think at the start of lock-in and even after week 1 and kind of the path that Golden Guardians game on Friday was taking, I think you could categorize TSM as a dumpster fire at that point. But I think, as Spawn did mention, they did have 2 really clean games against Team Liquid and against Immortals. So I would say they're improving, but I'm not ready to just throw them up into the top of the league with the C9s and the 100 Thieves yet, as I think some people are leaning towards because of how good they looked and that they did beat Team Liquid. I'm not saying that like people are saying that they're a top 3 team, but it seems that with TL sort of failing and EG sort of failing, TSM has been just kind of like shot up there as they're now a top team, I guess.
Yeah, I think if that's the take, I can kind of agree that it might be an overreaction. I think one good weekend for a team that has volatile players is really risky to, hop on that bandwagon. You're going to get burned if you say that they're a top team now, because with Huni, Sword Art lost, like I can see a world where they have a 0-3 weekend or a 1-2 weekend and don't look good still, even though they are improving. This is probably going to be one of those teams with just 2 steps forwards, 1 step back. So I think that they are better than people were giving them crap for. People thought they were terrible. To Spawn's point, I think they found some picks that worked well for them. Getting Pantheon for Sword Art was really good. He was really good at that Worlds, and it kind of still carries over. The Shen pick, I think, worked really well. It allowed Huni to kind of play more of a stable weak side. Doesn't get abused nearly as hard as a Gnar can. Even then, he did have a good Gnar game to follow it up. So, I thought things looked much better for them. And I'm excited that things are looking better for them because I don't want them to be bad. But I would also say, I bet Huni into game still. And I just hope when that happens, people aren't suddenly back on the they suck bandwagon. It's going to be hard, but you have to find the middle ground with this team.
Yeah, I think part of it is also that they're going up against what I would say is pretty difficult teams this upcoming week. They have, I think, EG Friday, 100 Thieves Saturday, Dig Sunday. Kind of like, I definitely think they'll lose that 100 Thieves game. The closest one that I think TSM has a chance of winning is probably that Dig game. I kind of view Dig as like this wild card team. They've obviously, they had a great weekend as well, going 3-0. But I think they mentioned on the cast in one of the games that Dardox picked a unique champion in every single game. And I also think Aframu's been playing super, super well. I would say he's probably top 4 supports in NA. He was, I would say, on that same level last year as well. So I would kind of put Dig in this, they're like the wild card of the LCS. But I think if TSM is going to win a match, it'll be that Dig one.
I don't know if Fit Flaring is in the chat, but I kind of agree with that. I feel like Dignitas, when they returned, and even before when they were here the first time, they were always a team where, within the first couple of weeks of the LCS, you'd be like, wow, Dignitas looks really good. And then they're just always towards the bottom by the time that playoffs hits. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's the pattern that I've seen over and over and over again. So whenever Dig does really well, I'm always like, okay, I'm gonna wait a little while before I ride the Dig train, because I feel like they tend to peak early. Perhaps is a good way of putting it.
Do you know the cool thing about the Dig roster? And I've actually had this experience building teams myself in the past, where like when you have a roster like TSM, where maybe you have like 4 or 5 players that are used to getting resources, it becomes this thing about there is only so much on the map of Summoner's Rift, and you have to be able to balance resources in a way that is actually good. You know, who's playing weak side, as Mark said, what picks do they look like, because maybe they haven't had to play that role in the past and they're super talented, but they're trying to find the footing, and they're going to play on that knife's edge of like, you know, I'm going to take as much as I can without getting punished in this situation. And then you have a roster like Dig, and I've actually personally built teams like this in the past, where it's like you have a couple of leaders and then a bunch of people in carry positions that are probably just going to do what Afromo and Dardoch tell them to. And like the best thing about that is, like, I will always say this, like, if you're just following one bad idea, it is going to be way more successful than following like 5 pretty good ideas, but 5 different people like doing a pretty good idea each. And like, I kind of agree with your take there, Travis, where like at this stage, like the cool thing about Dignitas, and as Nicole was mentioning TNT, they look really cohesive. They look really on the same page, and that's why jungle and support look good, because when your team's cohesive and on the same page, they're 2 of the roles that always shine. Whereas I think that TSM was a little bit of the flip side, where they had to kind of sort out, like, you know, who was getting resources and who wasn't, how they were going to play the game.
I mean, even that Fake God interview where they're, I forget who was interviewing him, but it was on the Riot broadcast, and they're like, what's going on with Dardoch's like jungle A to Z marathon? And they're like, yeah, we just kind of go with it, you know? And like on some teams, they're not just going to go with it. They'll be like, fuck you, Dardoch, don't play Mundo, play a normal champion.
Yeah.
And like, you know, then team cohesion starts to break down and this kind of thing. And so the fact that they have, you know, soul laners and other players who are willing to support Dardoch's playstyle means that, like, one, Dardoch looks better, but also the team is also able to actually work as a unit well.
I mean, the Dardoch interview. So here, before we go back to TSM, because now we've gone off track. But the Dardoch interview on Saturday, he was literally like, "Yeah, I finally got a team that is around me and is willing to make, you know, I can do whatever I want." And and I feel like that's kind of the promise that Dig seemed to make him when they signed him early. It's just like, all right, Dardoch is here. Figure out the rest, general manager and coaches and people. Make this man happy. So. It does seem true. Back to the TSM though. All right, Mark and Spawn. Let's put it this way: where would you play? Where do you think TSM is as a team? You don't have to give me like first place, second place, but are they middle of the pack, up near the top with like the C9s? And I would have said TL, but 100 Thieves, or are they bottom of the pack? You know, where would you place them?
I'd put them with like EG Dig, and currently TL, based off how they're playing, which is not, hey man, you guys are below them in the standings, stop dying in lanes.
All right, let's just like, obviously I'm a TL representative, let's just like put that out there. We'll remove all bias.
We're removing the bias, or are we disclosing it? I think we're disclosing it.
TL is the best team in the league.
Okay.
Wait, so does that mean Revenge is the best top laner in the world?
Like, hang on a second, Mark. We won the damn lock-in tournament. Like, what more do you want us to do? We have one bad week, and all of a sudden we're just throwing the baby out of the bathwater. Like, did we forget about that whole tournament?
Revenge was week 1.
All right, cool.
It's week 4.
We won the lock-in tournament. We won best of 5s. That's important, right? So TL, I think TL, Cloud9, and 100 Thieves are like,
yeah,
clearly, in my opinion, like in a category, like if you want to call it S tier or whatever. TSM is an A tier team. Like, in my opinion, they're between 4th to 6th.
Yeah, TSM, Dig, and EG feel like they're kind of own tier. And then some of the other development teams like FlyQuest, Immortals are probably below it. CLG as well.
Like B and C, yeah.
But you did put TL in that group as well, Mark, I believe.
No, I was trying to fuck with Spawn.
Okay.
I think TL's current form doesn't look great, but I'm not worried. I wouldn't say it's like a long-term issue.
Yeah. Papa Smithy says in chat, TL is a top 10 NA team. So there you go, Spawn. Your countryman is supporting you, giving you a lot of support. GNT, sorry, I know we kind of stole the show here because Spawn has lots of opinions, but is there anything you want to shout out here? Or I don't know if there's anything that you want to... Seems like we mostly agree with you.
Yeah, no, that not much else to say. I agree with most of what was said. I would probably put, in terms of like a tier or whatever, I would put TSM at that same EG and Dignitas tier.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, will be very telling for this coming week. Like, they go 2-1 or 3-0 again, then I think I would be ready to put them in that S tier, you could call it.
Well, is there anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
Hopefully anyone else who's in Texas or struggling with power issues, hopefully it's going well for you. But
yeah. Well, thank you, and I hope you continue to have power and everything goes well. Hopefully the worst is behind you. Thank you so much for the call.
Yep, have a good one.
Yeah. All right, Spawn, here's your chance. It's time. What Spawn is showing you right now is the M15 laptop. It's the 15, right? Not the 17.
This is the 17.
It's the M17 laptop. Do you happen to know if it's an R3 or R2? Do you know the it's okay. It's a wonderful. It wouldn't say it would not say it's about what's in the specs in it. They've updated it a couple times. Regardless, it's an amazing computer. You can go check them out at alienware.com/Travis. Travis 10 off will save you 10%. That link is in the description of the YouTube video. I'll put it in there. Look at how beautiful it is. I love that background, actually, by the way. They do such a good job of making the whole computer feel like such a great experience when you open it. I was actually just using an Area 51M this past weekend because I was out of town. And I love that computer so much. It's so nice to have the power of a desktop processor and graphics card with you. I don't know why Spawn has two of them, but he does have two of them.
TL money is the answer.
Yeah, exactly. They just he just gets paid in Alienware hardware, I believe. There's the keyboard that he got. I love Spawn. Spawn's told this story before about how he's just basically always been with an Alienware sponsored team. Did they sponsor OPL as well?
No, they didn't sponsor OPL, but we were really lucky because I think we kind of got grandfathered into the deal, so we still had some sick Alienware computers, even though they weren't an official sponsor. Yeah. But yeah, I've always been with Alienware. Actually, my first ever gaming laptop I bought was an Alienware. And I've got a 13, a 17. I've had a 15 in the past. I use their peripherals. I use their mouse pads. I've got a great big mouse pad as well that they gave me as well.
I love that mouse pad. I actually should get Mark one of those.
I've also got the monitors as well right now. They've got a new 360 hertz monitor out. It is if there's anything about Alienware that I would recommend more than anything, it is their monitors are actually just badass. They are so good.
No, it's so true. So true. I love, by the way, the big boy. I mean, this is, I think, it's a little excessive for some people, but I have the big boy 55-inch gaming monitor, Alienware gaming monitor. That's the OLED, and it is a delight. So anyway, thank you so much to Alienware for their support. Again, hope that all our friends in Austin that have been affected by this are through the worst of it, because it's just, I've been talking to some of my friends out there, and it's pretty spooky. But thank you so much to Alienware for the support of the show. All right, next caller, Mark. Off he goes.
Can I just say, I know why that J&T won the debate as well. He was a really, that was a good take. I enjoyed that take.
Yeah. Well, he comes in with a lot of confidence, which I really appreciate. Not to say there's anything wrong with the people that call in and are a little more timid. I get it, but we have Kelsey Moser on the show. Kelsey Moser from Evil Geniuses. Or should we not attach your team affiliation with you? Are we trying to avoid that?
No, you should.
Okay.
I had to ask them to give me the Twitter banner though. So
to get you the Twitter banner? They didn't want. They were trying to keep it on the
however
down
you
low?
want. Yeah, I mean, they didn't want me to brand them with their things, but they do want me to retweet their collegiate stuff. So there is that.
I did see.
Is that your negotiating power? I'll only retweet give me the banner.
Because their collegiate stuff is really solid. I should know.
Really quickly, well, first off, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Los Angeles, California. Actually, is Santa Monica technically still Los Angeles?
Yeah, it's part of LA County. You can say people in Santa Monica.
Urban sprawl.
Yeah. Can I actually before we get into your take, can I ask you? I've noticed that you've been retweeting a bunch of these brand ambassador things. Is this part of the collegiate program? Do you want to say what that is really quickly?
So we have a really solid internship program that I had nothing to do with. It already existed before I came on. So if you're a college student and you do really, really cool stuff, we have a really nice internship program for esports where you get kind of an experience doing almost everything on the business side plus some team side stuff. Some of the people that we've picked up are really insane. Like we had the guy who's a master's student and who's had previous sports experience. I also understand he's done some stuff with the military. So we hire like really, really high level internship candidates. So
That's cool.
Really cool.
Well, I mean, it's great to see that because I know collegiate people are always messaging me. I'm sure Spawn and Mark get that all the time too. Like, oh, I'm a college student. I'm trying to figure out how to get it. So it's pretty neat. What is your take, Kelsey?
My take is that the current Proving Grounds format is counterproductive to development.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
well, I'm excited because we got Spawn on here too, so he can either disagree or agree with you. But and those are the only options, by the way. He's not allowed to do anything in between. So Kelsey, go ahead and expand.
Yeah. So I think the starting point that I would have here is that, like for me, when I first heard about the Proving Grounds format as an academy, I was assuming I was going to be an academy coach again, just for transparency. And I thought it sounded really cool because if you place top 6 in academy, you basically have like a month-long boot camp. So I first wanted to get Spawn's take on that because he did place top 6 in academy. And I want to know if that's like his approach to it or what he thinks about that take, because I know some academy coaches have had kind of mixed ideas on that. From the amateur side, however, it's like you have a match almost every 3 days. And then you basically get one scrim day, and then a match, and then a match, and a match, and a match. So amateur teams being able to actually develop feels really, really difficult because the scrim schedule is basically non-existent. Like you don't have an opportunity to fix problems. So basically the teams with players who have really, really stacked levels of experience are the ones that are often floating to the top in the amateur side. So I'm just kind of curious how we want to talk about that, or like what Spawn's take on it, or
I mean, Spawn loves the format because he gets to go home and see his family.
That's not necessarily true. So, like, so first of all, it's really funny, right? Because I can 100% understand from an amateur perspective that this seems like a very hectic schedule, and it was one of my big questions as well. It's like, how do you run a program that is effective with such a hectic schedule and with like so many chances? Like I almost think it would be better if like you could just pick your moment to try and qualify for Proving Grounds and like have a tournament like you kind of all in on, if that makes sense to a certain degree. What I will say from the academy side is we didn't finish top 6, we finished top 2. But apart from that,
excuse me. Okay, I will. Undefeated until the very last 2 matches. Okay, would you prefer that title?
Correct. Undefeated until the 2-match losing streak. Apart, like, so it's really interesting to see how different people are treating this because, and I'm sure you've been a part of teams like this as well, Kelsey. And without going too much into it, because people get really, peeved when you like leak scrim information and stuff like that. It's very fair to say that we do a better job in scrims than we do on stage as TLA. So the 6 weeks, in my opinion, like I'm actually like, wow, I wish there were a couple of tier 2s in that time that we could actually play in because like much like the main team, we're trying to push the pace of which we play the game at the moment. You probably saw that today. We're stacking Drakes, we're stacking Heralds. We're trying to push pace. And then if you make that one mistake on stage, like the game can crumble. Whereas, and I'm sure you've been a part of this in scrims, is you push the pace. Maybe a team just like, takes a fight they would have taken on stage. Maybe an FF happens or, maybe the game just evolves into chaos and stuff like that. So I actually think that a couple more stage games would actually help my team at the moment is my kind of take. So I'm kind of caught in between. But what I will say is I don't think the system is perfect. But I think the system where you now have a pool of maybe 20 teams, like underneath the LCS, academy and amateur, that are really high quality opponents, being able to participate in one tournament is a really good step in the right direction. So I think that whilst it's not quite perfect yet, and I've given feedback for Split 2, that we are really happy with the steps that Riot are trying to take to improve it from where it has been historically.
I agree. I definitely think it's a positive step, but I think that if the goal is development, like for example, on 100 Thieves, our amateur team, we only participated in one amateur tournament for most of the season just because it allowed us to have a lot more scrims to level up our amateur team. And I think that contributed to some of the success. Like Kevin having a lot of time to work with those players, they definitely leveled up really, really well. So I think that's something that I'm kind of missing a little bit in terms of, obviously scrims versus stage, you can make that argument, and I think it's definitely helping. Like, for example, I know players on No Work have a history of having difficulty of translating scrim performance to stage, but they have a lot of that LCS experience, so they'll benefit a lot from this format, for sure. But you have like a really, really heavy amateur teams with no experience coming from other places that don't necessarily get the benefit of, okay, we're going to workshop this idea. So if you have a less experienced team, then I think that they benefit way less from like having less scrim time, less focused practice, where they can think about, okay, here's a concept. We're going to really, really just drill this concept all day. And that's going to be the goal and what we address in every single scrim. So that's kind of what I'm looking for a little bit more as a mix. So like one of my ideas that I think is good is, dropping a couple of the tier 2s or tier 1s. I think that would also incentivize more academy teams to participate too. So that's kind of what I'm looking for in the second split.
Just because someone in Twitch chat asked why isn't more stage games better than scrims? And I think we can all agree that when you want to focus on a specific thing, like Kelsey is saying, it's a lot harder to do on stage because whenever you're taking up more of your brain space to actively try and think of this thing, you're usually having to forget something, or you're not going to be doing the other things as well. And so to like build the habits and build the things so that you no longer have to actively think about it, you have to lower these other skills, and you want to build them up so that way when you go and play on stage, all those things are more intuitive and you don't need to devote so much brain space to it. But if you're like, hey, this today we're really going to focus on getting vision control around mid lane, like we're dying to too many mid ganks or something, or like whatever it is, if you're constantly talking about warding mid and stuff like that, like it's probably distracting when you're also trying to like lane bottom and stuff, if like the comms are now cluttered with this random crap. So that's why scrims can help you work on those kinds of things.
I would say optimizing for the win while you want to develop a player is exactly counterintuitive, and it doesn't really have to be one or the other. It needs to be balanced between the two.
Yeah, there's this thing called like unconscious and conscious learning, right? And this is actually really applicable to gaming, but I always use a driving analogy. So I don't know how many people in chat drive stick. Like I learned how to drive like manual or stick or whatever you want to call it. But like what happens is like as a kid, right? You're a 13-year-old, you get in a car and you're like, you consciously like you're a baby, you unconsciously don't know that you don't know how to drive a car. You don't know what a car is, like it's whatever. You get to 13, you consciously know that you don't know how to drive a car. You look at it and you're like, well, I've seen someone move this thing, I've seen them press the clutch in, but like I just don't know how it all fits together, right? And then you consciously know how to do it. You start driving the car, but you have to think, right? Left foot in on clutch, like move into first gear, accelerate at the same time. Oh, I've stalled. This is how you fix a stall, right? And then you get to the point where you just drive to work, but you're like, I can't even remember traffic. Like you are unconsciously competent at driving a car. Learning does not take place in unconscious competency. So all these challenger players that are really good at the game that we get into like academy and amateur teams, they are unconsciously competent at League of Legends. They just do things because it feels good or because that's how they've always done it and that's how they climb. You have to drag them back to conscious competent and question why they're doing something. And it actually takes a shit ton of energy. And as Mark's saying, the bucket theory, your bucket overflows. But you have to be like, why did you ward the pixel brush at this time? They're playing a jungler that actually passed bottom to top, and therefore this ward is useless. And all of a sudden, you're dragging all these things that they just autopilot and do because they are unconsciously competent, and you have to bring them back to consciously competent. And that is really hard to do during a stage game because you actually just want your players in flow state, which a lot of the time is unconsciously competent. So as Kelsey's saying, scrims are really, really good at like teaching these series because that's when actual learning happens.
Yeah, as an academy coach, my favorite periods outside of just the early season before matches start are basically the times where there's Rift Rivals, because that's like a 2-week period where there are no matches. And you just basically are able to say, today we're going to drill this concept. And then the next day it's, today we're going to drill this concept. If you're preparing every week for a match, a lot of times you don't have that opportunity, which makes development a little bit difficult because you're basically compartmentalizing development into 2 days maximum, and the next 2 days are preparing for the matches. So that's why I think it's really. I can't imagine a situation where I basically have 2 days where 1 day is off, 1 day can be a scrim day, and then the rest of the week are matches. I can't imagine how you would plan development in that kind of situation.
Well, the thing is, right, and this is really interesting, Kelsey, because this has come up with a lot of things that Team Liquid has talked about, and I've talked about in the past. The only way you do it well is if you are willing to lose games.
Yep.
And this is just like even though like this will seem like a cop out and everyone's like paid by Steve, I can just see Twitch chat, subscribe to Travis, paid by Steve. Like it's just going nuts right now. But you actually just have to be able to spend scrims getting better. And maybe that concept is going to suck against 2 of the opponents you play that week. But maybe you just need to get better at Rift Heralds, and like therefore you need to spend like 20 games of the week, like at 7 minutes, talking about how you're going to do Herald, showing up to the Herald, team fighting, either winning or losing the fight, and then just being able to reset the game, fighting a second Herald, whatever you want to do. But like that isn't going to always be conducive to winning the games on the week. It will win you games in the future, but it might not win you games straight away.
So I do want to wrap up this just so that we get more community callers. But is there what would you guys say would be the thing that you'd like to say or to see instead? Is there like a simple solution to this, you think?
Yeah, I think I already kind of mentioned it very briefly, but drop a tier 2 tournament and drop a tier 1 tournament, and I think that will help a lot. In terms of the academy, I, as an academy coach, like I said, was really interested in this idea of a month-long boot camp in academy, just like randomly in the season. I thought it was a really cool idea, but I know that a lot of other academy coaches and academy players have expressed the idea that, that means there's less time where we're like playing matches. We don't feel like there's a goal. So I just think just challenging the idea of what structural stuff can you work on during that time. I think is really cool. But if we want to problem solve that, then I think making entrance into the T1s optional is a good idea. It might make it a little bit difficult for tournament organizers, but if we can do that, I think that would be cool too. So.
Nice. Hey, Kelsey, anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Support Evil Geniuses. Our Prodigies team is doing really, really well. Our Academy team hasn't been doing as well, but hoping that they have a really good opportunity to bounce back with the second T1 tournament. And then obviously GLCS is great. And then look forward to stuff that I'm working on, which is more related to collegiate and just general regional development in the coming months. So
nice. I'm excited, Kelsey, and I'm excited for all that to be put to such strong use whenever the import rule is lifted and none of those people can get joined. Thanks for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, thanks.
All right. Some more subs that I want to shout out from before. Thank you to, tons of people. JShrode91, D9TV, Ajax TV, Boater Michael. Good to see you, Boater Michael. Core user Twitch, Barbinator24, Warscript, St. Louis Slayer with 32 months. That's Kyler Slatherpuss, Senpai Samurai or Senpai Prime, Irish Blizzard, and Flick Nickum. Grayson of Gotham for 1 year. Bearman499 says this one's for OCE. Poro on Mars, Manhattan, Reaper Achilles, and the Box ABQ rated us with 3 viewers. Thank you, Kelsey. I don't know if you're still here. eCruise 255, thanks for the Prime. And D9 gifted a sub to Reggie. Boba Cola for 42 months. Oh my god, we're getting up there. Purple Ray Q, Polish, I9 Gaming. So we're still waiting for Mark to come back. That's why I'm still doing this. Twisted Fate, Emulator, Bearman gifted a sub, and Fifth Laren with the Prime.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Fifth Laren. Kelby in the chat. Earlier I linked him. He asked me a question. I linked him the stream, and he said, "Is this that show I used to be on?" Actually, Kelby and Spawn I think would get along really well. Spawn, have you ever met Kelby? Do you know who he is? Do you have any idea who this individual is?
Yeah, I know who Kelby is. But I've never met Kelby.
Yeah.
But I'm an OG as well, Travis.
Yeah. Used to run CLG when it was a losing organization, but also a relevant organization, unlike now. Lo-Fi Avocado is here. Lo-Fi Avocado, where are you calling from?
Calling from Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is that 100T has the highest ceiling of any team. And with the playstyle that they've already shown, they're going to finish first seed to go to Worlds and then turn out NA's best performance.
Well, okay. So I've asked this question. We've had people talk about NA's best performance at Worlds. Our best performance previously was semifinal.
I think he's just saying of the teams that go, right, this year? Or do you mean ever?
No, I mean ever, yeah.
So does that mean they're making finals?
Either finals, or I do think like also the way in which you would get to semis, or the way in which you do in groups in terms of like
okay, so they get first seed and then they lose in semis, or
NA hasn't had a first seed ever, so technically
to an eventual winner or something like that,
Yeah, I don't think we've had a first seed ever. I have to check 2014.
Is Papa Smithy still in the chat? Is he paying you?
He can.
Okay. All right, you want to break this down?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, I think like in the past, or at least in recent years, the best performing teams always are playing to their own strengths, not necessarily which champs have the highest win percentage, but what players do I have and what's the best way for our team to win. And they really stick to that. And so, and I think 100 Thieves not only has shown that they have a lot of different options in which they can win, create win conditions through different lanes, different players, but also that they're willing to try a lot of different things. I think 100 Thieves has a lot of young talent that has consistently gotten better and better to where now they're top performing, as well as their play style that they've already shown, I think is the biggest key. They're extremely proactive and aggressive, and even in the last couple of weeks, the games that they struggled in the early game wasn't from them sitting back and getting out farmed, but them taking risks, making plays that I feel like most teams probably only make in like practice games or in scrims and whatnot. But they choose to try it on stage, and so yeah, in the tournament it looked great because they were working, but that didn't stop them. Even when those plays failed, on Sunday they pulled it back. They went a little bit more reserved. But then the next week they followed it up with some more proactive, aggressive play. And I think, similar to G2 or other teams that they practice being proactive on stage is so much different than when you just practice that in scrims. And I think with the synergy that they already have, it actually allows them to start making those really complicated plays versus TL when they had their, 4-peat. They were a really great team with tons of synergy, but they just simply practice how not to make mistakes, how to play really, really reserved. And that didn't lead to any sort. When you get to Worlds, results speak for themselves, but simply when all you practice was to not make mistakes, and all of a sudden you have teams being proactive and being successful, being proactive against you, you can't simply just try to be risk averse when it comes to Worlds, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah.
Okay. So here's my first problem with this taker. I think some people are like, wow, Travis is confused by 100 T. So good. Mark and Spawn, and I know Spawn, you're biased, but help me out here. Is there anybody on 100 T that either of you think is the best in their role?
Arguably,
you can make cases for
someday.
a couple.
Yeah, maybe FBI, and I wouldn't believe I would ever argue for Huhi, but I think you could say that the gap between him and potentially CoreJJ isn't so significant that it's it's at least like contestable.
You can also say on some picks, Closer is like
right
up there as well.
I guess I just don't think like it doesn't feel like if you told me none of those 5 players make first all team this split, I think that's very likely, and I think none of them are in MVP contention. And so
yeah, because let's be realistic. Like if you're gonna do first NBA team, it's probably I'll just rattle off some random names. Like,
okay, yes.
All
the TLC.
Alvaro, Santorin, Jensen, Tactical, CoreJJ. That's your first all NBA team, all LCS team.
And so I guess what I would say is like it's tough for me to say that they have the highest. To hear you say they have the highest ceiling when I feel like all their players are great, but it feels like so many other teams have players that most people would rank higher. And maybe you say like
Travis.
The sum is
Travis.
greater, the whole's greater than the sum of its parts. But I don't know. Mark, go ahead.
How many of those players are skill capped in your mind? Of those not the best in their role currently? How many of them have you think you've seen the peak of their careers?
I don't know. It's really tough to say.
Yeah, thanks for the insight. I agree with the caller's point on the fact that like they are all still improving. Like FBI, Closer, Huhi, and Demonte have all had generally split over split better splits. I mean, Huhi you can argue a little bit because he had like a mid MSI finals, but at least in support position he's been getting better. Split over split. Someday I think is the only one who you could have that kind of like, well, we've seen quote unquote the best of Someday already, but I don't think he's gotten significant like worse really. I just don't, like he's one of the best already. It's hard to improve from there. Improvement gets logarithmic harder. So like I don't think that I'm not going to say they have the best world's performance of all time. That takes ridiculous. Could they go as a number one seed from NA? That I can maybe get behind a little bit. I think the caller made good points about that where like they can keep getting better. Demonte, people talk about him being a two-trick, but I want to point something out. In the first couple weeks of spring, the first four, well, I guess three. The first three, teams banned TF Galio against him all 3 times, and then game 4, they banned TF and Pantheon. People wanted to hard target him because they thought he was a two-trick, and then they ripped off 4 straight wins, and people were like, shit, I guess that doesn't actually beat 100 Thieves. And like this is the big thing about if you have 3 champions that you're nasty on, and then you have a 4th that you still win on, people just stop banning your nasty shit because it's not a good enough strategy to actually ban you out that way. And I think, at least right now in the meta, Demonte's fine. It doesn't matter if he has a champion Ocean. He doesn't need to be fucking Dardoch of mid lane. You just need your effective champion pool, and eventually people will realize that's not quite enough to just ban you out and you're useless now.
But like, how many times are we going to say Demonte just plays Kiana and then makes worlds? Demonte just plays Twisted Fate. All of a sudden it's still like nearly top of the ladder. Like it's just bullshit, right? Like the guy has he has a small effective champion pool, but it's not like it doesn't change like patch to patch, right? Right now, globals are really good, and he has a small, effective global champion pool with a couple of control mages built in there. But when melee assassins were good, he also had a small, effective melee assassin champion pool that he was also really good at. So, like, I think that like he just gets way too much hate for playing a small, effective pool. In fact, I wish some other players would just play a small, effective pool because it actually simplifies the game plan. One thing I will say is like before I was TL biased, I was like real FBI bias. And like Mark Z knows this. Like FBI is my man. And even though Vic, you deleted me off the League of Legends client because you thought I was leaking strats Team Liquid while you were scrimming, which I wasn't. You're my boy. I think that dude is insane. Like FBI was on my team in 2018. I have never coached a player as good as FBI. He is like just genuinely, he is a generational talent. Like this guy is truly special. He truly has like a hunger for the game. Like he gets up in the morning, he grinds VODs, he plays scrims, he plays solo queue, he grinds VODs, he asks questions. He is like, for a good player, the worry is like this guy's got a huge ego. He's uncoachable. He's like easily one of the most coachable people I've ever had. So he will just continue to get better. And if you told me a team that had FBI on it was first in LCS, that's plausible to me. I'm a huge FBI fan.
Yeah. I don't necessarily agree with the caller's takes, by the way. Like, I don't think I'm not the one betting on 100 Thieves to finish first. I'm not betting on them to have their best world's performance. I think that one's crazy. I think that they might start running into some skill issues come best teams in the world stage. But at least for NA, I don't think that that's going to be too much of an issue. And I'm not saying, to Travis's point, who's best in their role. I'm not saying Demonte's number one. Like, I would probably still put Perks, Jensen, maybe PoE, and some other.
What? Jensen, Perks. Come on, Mark. Get on
I
board.
was listing just a group of people. That wasn't ordered at all. But like, he doesn't need to be the best in his role if he has like the champ pool that works best for his team. And I think that's something that Demonte's always been good about finding.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting is Demonte. I mean, out of let's say Someday Closer, Demonte, FBI. If you're the opponent of 100 Thieves, and you think, okay, who's their win condition, or who are they going to put a win condition on, or who do we have to stop, or who are we most concerned about, I guess. I personally would think, okay, look, there's Monsters someday, there's FBI, there's Closer. These guys are nasty. But yet, why is Demonte is drawing first round bans, for like 4 games straight, essentially. I think you're saying FBI is a world class talent, a generational talent, yet he's not drawing these bans. I think like you have someone that is so good at what they do in enabling other people. I don't think was it 2018 or 2019? I don't know. I'm pretty sure that Nautilus mid was not meta, right? Like
You're talking about Doinby, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's not a meta pick, right? But yet, because of the way in which their team functioned, they were able to amp. Like they didn't have to do what has the highest win percentage. They actually just played to how the heck are we going to win this game based on the way our team works, and I think that's why Demonte is actually such an incredible talent because somehow people don't think of him as a threat, and yet he can draw so many bans, so much, focus from a team or from an opponent.
I'm a Tanner fan. I want this to be on record. Whenever Demonte streams, I tune in. I think he's a great guy. I think he's
now,
a
are
really
you tuning
good
in the
player
same
as
way
well.
that you were tuning into FBI's?
However, let's not go nuts. Doinby and Demonte. I think that I'm having a hard time here, Travis. Keep a straight face.
I definitely had an eyebrow arch thrown in there. Listen, people thought they could pinch him because they thought he was a 2-trick. He proved he wasn't a 2-trick, but let's not go around saying that like people are must banning him. They're going to throw all 5 bans because you just got to find some way to slow Demonte down. That's not what I was saying, to be clear. I was just saying he's proven that he's not a 2-trick.
All right. Well,
Next
Avocado,
call.
I got to say. Okay, let's do it this way. Okay, Avocado says that they're going to go first seed. They're going to do better than any NNA team has gone before. Let's see if we can get Mark and Spawn to predict that 100T makes Worlds this year.
Yeah, they go to.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. How far do they go?
They make a good groups run, finish 3-3, maybe force a tiebreaker, and then like all good North American teams.
I see you've seen this show before. Mark?
Carrying on the tradition of what was it? Clutch Gaming at Worlds, they go 0-6 and leave.
Okay.
Holy
well,
shit, man.
Avocado, you got them to say that they'd go to Worlds, but it doesn't sound like they're making it out of groups. So,
well, it's better than TSM. So.
All right, we'll catch you next time. Anything you want to shout out?
I just want to shout out the 100 Thieves organization for going 2 weeks and not having Someday play Ornn. It's just so great.
Very good. Well, maybe if they can keep it up, they'll go. They'll make finals at Worlds. Thanks, Avocado.
Yeah, take care.
All right, moving on to the next caller. Fiflaren, thank you for the prime. Travis Gafford, great man, gifted a sub to I Am Water Trash so that he could see the VODs. Croissant, LOL, thank you for the 10 months. Favorite game fuel flavor, says Croissant. I like this one, which is the Charged Cherry Burst. Comes in the red can. Soybeans, thank you for the 4 months. Lord Hogney, thank you for the prime. And Naked Homeless Man, thank you for the 37 months. As always, Naked Homeless Man, you are great. Love and Flow, thank you for the 10 months, and thanks for all the stuff Kelby's been able to present to sponsors. Semi-Psychic, is that it? Semi-Psych?
Yeah, Semipsyc.
Semi-Psych. Okay, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from, well, practically San Diego, like right next to San Diego, California, in
Nice.
Lakeside.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is I thought the LCS Team Press Conferences, those have been great for generating interest, and so it's cool that Riot has done that and that you were a part of that, Travis. And I think that they should bring back their catch-up segment they had before the LCS spring split of last year. I thought that was really cool, and I think they should make that like a monthly chat. That would be great to help like the community get to better know like a new group of players, maybe staff, and help generate interest, hype, storylines, and hopefully up viewership.
Mark, what was the catch-up segment? Was it sponsored
by
by Heinz?
I don't actually know. I don't think I know the segment he's even referencing. I didn't watch it.
I think I got a link for it, but it was basically when they had Double Lift, Afromu, Meteos, and
Oh, you're talking about like the dash.
Oh,
thing.
the round table thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
that-
want them to do State of the League every week?
well,
Oh,
like maybe monthly, but if they did it weekly, that would be cool too.
Okay, first off, let's be clear here. What Dash did was a very high production State of the League. All right, he did it great. He did it admirably. But that was him
So
taking a
I was
nine-year-old
in
idea.
those planning meetings, and no one ever once referenced State of the League. They talked about the Hollywood,
I'm
the
sure.
round table,
Yeah.
like with the actors, where they get a bunch of people.
Oh, let's
What
just
is State of the
assemble a
League?
panel of
What
4
is-
pros from different
Yeah.
teams to talk about the league and how everyone's doing and stuff. Oh, what would we? Oh, it's just like Hollywood.
And I'm sure you came up with that State of the League thing, right? Like there wasn't another show that came before with like one word different,
No,
and then the exact format was the same, though,
I
right?
owe
There wasn't.
JP McDaniel nothing. Anyway, look, yes, Semi. This show should exist. I agree. It would be amazing to have something like that. I did it 10 years ago, and I'm sad I don't do it anymore. You think I'd be sitting here with Spawn and Mark Z and 1,100 viewers if I could get Afromu, Double Lift, Bjergsen, and who was it? It was like Golden Glue or something? Who was the other person?
Yeah, Golden Glue.
Golden Glue on this
Travis-
show right now?
Travis, you're sitting here at 1,100 viewers with us because you just keep talking about yourself. Let the caller go. Let the take go.
Okay, sorry. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Semipsyc, to that?
So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it was the State of the League because I don't remember it being labeled as that, but I have the link here.
No, it wasn't called it. Okay, Semi. When
know
did
you
you
got
start
State of the
watching
League,
League of
of
Legends?
He's a zoomer, Travis.
So-
He doesn't remember.
Actually, I was watching since before season 1 when Double Lift was on. Like, was it Epic Gaming?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Epic Gamer.
So I'm a
And you
huge
never
Double Lift
watched
fan,
a show
but I've
called
watched a
State of the
bit
League?
State of the League. I watched it. I did enjoy that show too.
Okay.
All right, to the caller's point, I didn't even know the press conferences were going to be a thing, and it was really cool to see Travis have a bunch of content this week with press conferences. I like press conferences as long as the people in them are asking good questions, which is sometimes the issue with press conferences. But other than that, I like the idea of them.
And we got Travis there asking good questions. So
Okay, so I don't know. Here, let me break it. Actually, Mark and Spawn have talked a lot in the last one. So, two things. One, I think the press conferences are great. I am happy that Riot is doing them. It's funny because I think normally you would try to do something like this before the start of lock-in or before the start of the LCS split, but I think because of just like logistics, COVID stuff, that they ended up doing it now. But I'm really happy that they're doing them, and I do think it is quite fun to be part of them. I wish that there are times where I have only been able to ask a single question because we just have limited time and there's so much media in them, and I kind of wish that there was a chance for like a longer dialogue. But regardless, I think it's great. I have talked before about how press conferences are really shitty during events, especially whenever it's like a post-game press conference with teams. I think all media hate that shit, and so I want to be careful about endorsing press conferences and being clear that that is not something I'm a big proponent of. But I think press conferences like before the start of a tournament, or sort of this kind of the LCS has started and let's talk to the teams about what they're doing and the ownership stuff. I think that's fantastic. So yeah, I really hope they do keep doing that. Previously, they had done the last 2 years. They've done media days, which I also thought were great. They couldn't do that this year, and so this is kind of a nice substitute, but still, I really think that stuff is great. It gives the owners and everybody a chance to sort of say who they are to the media and obviously to the fans through it, and then it just gives an open dialogue for questions. And it is sick that the timing of this just lined up all 10 team owners for me to just, like I'm usually the first or second question just being like, so tell me about this import rule.
God.
And that is... Does that make you uncomfortable, Spawn? Did that? With regards to the State of the League show that you were talking about, so I think I think content that involves players interacting from different teams is awesome. I would love to see content where it's like, hey, I'm sitting down with actually let's let's throw it to somebody else. Let's say Kobe sits down with 3 junglers in the LCS and talks about what's going on in the jungle, how they're all sort of seeing it differently. Obviously, it's difficult because they don't want to give anything up, but it's that stuff is fantastic. Or me talking to a bunch of the different players and actually asking them what they think about the import rule and having them all discuss it. The problem has always been scheduling. It is so difficult when all these teams have different schedules to get a bunch of these players all together. And so you would think like, okay, well, Mondays are usually open, but yeah, I love that stuff. I wish there was more of it. I really agree that like a panel discussion is fantastic. I would love to bring back State of League. It's just like for years and years, ever since the start of the LCS, it's been impossible to do.
Yeah, the thing that I will say on this is you don't want it to turn into like traditional sport. And I don't know if you guys have this, so I'll just do my Australian impression. They win a game, like a big burly rugby or footy player comes on and they're like, oh yeah, bloody, the boys played well, and yeah, we played hard, and yeah, then we picked up the win. And like that's like what you don't want out of your press conferences, right? And like to Travis's point, like you create a roundtable this week, right? Because jungle is being nerfed. And, Kobe or me or Mark or whoever like is hosting the questions, like, because really, you can just be a talking head at that point. You're like, yeah, what does it mean? And all of a sudden you have 3 junglers just go, because all they're thinking is like, if I give away any competitive advantage here, this is bad. And therefore, like, in my opinion, it's always been like more personality driven, and this is where it can be at times hit and miss because there's some players that have bigger personalities than others. And like the caller was really great because he like had like 3 people or 4 people that have just insane personality, and if you put Afromoo, Double Lift, Golden Glue, like anywhere together, like they're probably going to make you good content because they're just great personalities. But like at a certain point, like League of Legends is such a unique game in the way that it is so undiscovered, and there are so many things out there that pro players don't want to share, that like you get into a realm where at press conferences generally, in my opinion, fall flat most of the time.
Yeah, here's a great example of that. At Worlds, when they force press conferences after group stage, which now I worry that they're going to start doing at group stage soon, and then that's when I stop covering Worlds completely. But you can compare like a team that just lost, or a lot of the LCK or LPL teams. I don't know why it's those 2 regions that tend to be the most quiet or serious afterwards, but like those press conferences feel terrible compared to a G2 press conference where even after a loss they are making fun of each other and all that stuff. And so you do get wild swings in the press conference stuff. But
that's what everyone remembers, because everyone loves like the Greg Popovich interviews or the Russell Westbrook interviews or the Draymond Green interviews, because like this is the thing that I would say to players out there, and like I can see Invert in the chat, like junglers will share strategies all the time and stuff, but sometimes that's just boring shit as well. Is like what people really want is for Travis to ask a question with a really nice suit on, and Mark Z to pull the handkerchief out of Travis's suit pocket that is clearly not meant to be blowing your nose with, and to blow his nose on that handkerchief and give it back. Because that's what Greg Popovich did to Craig Sager, and it was absolutely hilarious. And like, it's one of my all-time favorite interviews. Also, like, when like you just give dumbass answers, like, this is what I'm about, press interviews.
Yeah.
Like Travis is like, yeah, so why did you lose that game? And I'm like, because they destroyed my Nexus. Like, what do you want from me, Travis? Like, get out of my face with the microphone.
So I don't think you probably watch American football, but Bill Belichick is the same way, and like I grew up in New England, so like every time he had that press conference and some person is like asking these stupid questions, he just like shoots daggers and gives them the worst answers ever, and it's so funny how hard he shits on reporters sometimes. But then if you ask him a good question, he like actually respects it. And so like I think Pop is probably the same way. If you actually ask him an intelligent basketball question, he'll give you a good answer. And I think I would love to see Parth, be like, write me a fucking essay to some, so asking this question. And then, if you actually ask him a good question, having an insightful comment,
Can I ask Semi which press conferences you've watched? Did you only watch the TSM one?
So far I've watched the TSM one and what was the other one? It was
100T?
Immortals. I think it was 100T. Yeah, it was 100T.
So those are the only ones I've posted to my channel. I don't know how many other outlets have posted others to their channels. But did you watch all of both?
I did, yes.
Because, okay, I think I'm trying to figure out a diplomatic way to say this. Some of the media ask questions that are... I'm really trying to figure out... Okay. sometimes
Just don't be diplomatic, dude. Just throw the hand grenade.
no,
Mark
I
will
don't.
catch
I
it.
don't. I just don't. I don't
No
like
one
going
watches
in on.
this show, dude. Just say it.
I don't want to. I don't want to go in. But like sometimes, what people will ask a question like, "Hey, do you think that having your sponsors is a good thing that helps you because you have a lot of sponsors?" And like, what is like? Then we sit through and answer for like the. Like, and I'm not saying like I have shilled, I have been a shill for these teams. I've asked like open-ended questions like that, but like some of these press conferences I think have been tough because some of the questions sometimes are just like, "Hey, do you think that having the training facility helps you?" And it's like, what do you expect is going to happen when you ask that question? Now we're all going to sit here for 3 minutes while like somebody is just like, "Oh my God, let me tell you about the training facility. It's so much it's done for us. The teams, the players, they could do all this stuff." It's just, so I think that's kind of part of the thing is I hope I want to challenge myself to ask better questions in these press conferences. It's part of the reasons why I've been enjoying them because I can ask around the import stuff, which I do think is interesting. And I hope that like other media do this. And I think here's one thing I will say that is a little critical. The PR folks sometimes, and I love working with these people, they're fantastic, but I have been surprised at times where they provide access to teams and press conferences to outlets who have never demonstrated any work before. And I think that might impact the quality of some of these questions, is I guess what I would say. Okay. My apologies to any of my colleagues who I have besmirched. Semi.
Yes.
I'm trying to think if there's anything. Mark, you guys have anything else on this topic?
Mark's muted. He's out.
Nope.
Okay. Semi, what do you... I agree. I like the press conferences, and I hope that I can bring State of the League back. What would you have any shout-outs or anything before we go on to a quick break?
Well, first of all, shout out to you and Mark. I think you guys do a great job with the show. I really enjoy it, and it would be nice if State of the League came back if schedules were okay and whatnot. And I guess shout out to cats. Cats are awesome. And
Oh
shout out to
God!
my
Wait.
wife.
Okay. Stop saying that because I was just about to propose to Mark something. Mark, do you think that this could be the call that we give it to?
Oh, you know what? Let's do it.
Okay. I'm going to hide Spawn really quickly. For this. Wait, I think I have to switch this and then I'll hide him. I am pleased to announce, and that makes sense we're doing this right before break, that we have a new segment on the show called the Game Fuel Victory Caller, the Mountain Dew Game Fuel Victory Caller. And it's something we're going to do for calls. We won't happen every show, but for a call that we think is really fantastic, we will award it the Game Fuel Victory Caller. Let's see if I can play that again because it's a little animation. I'll make it play again. Basically, the idea is if you have a take that we really like or it spawns a conversation that we really like, you get hooked up with a case of Game Fuel. So thank you to Semipsyc. You're our first Game Fuel Victory Caller, and we're going to hook you up with a case of Game Fuel. And I will send you the details as soon as you leave this call on how to do that. But thank you to Game Fuel for making this happen, and congratulations, Semipsyc, on being the first one.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Game Fuel.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll hit you up. Okay. Let's take a quick break to go into our Game Fuel conversation of the night. So Game Fuel, our second sponsor, I think it's really cool that they had this idea of like just literally how can we award Game Fuel or how can we award callers who have good takes. It felt like a great thing. I think Twitch chat will now be able to root for the victory callers. Hopefully Twitch chat doesn't encourage this too much because we only have so much Game Fuel we can give away in a year. I don't know. I'll talk to them. But that's one of the cool things that we're doing with them. In addition to that, if you go to gamefuel.com, not only can you go to partners and see a wonderful page that they've made for me right next to Courage, but you can save 5% off your order if you order from gamefuel.com. Let's see if I can pull this up. I don't know if I can pull it up, but we're going to see if I can. You can save 5% off your order of Game Fuel. Here, if I go to partners, you guys should be able to see it. Here we go. Look at this fantastic page. There's some cool stuff going on there. You can save 5% off your order. And one of the cool things that they do as well that I think is fantastic is they have this thing called Victory Pass, Let's see if I can pull it up on the page. So Victory Pass is basically this rewards program that mimics like battle passes that you see in video games, where you can actually level up. So if you make an account, not only I think they have free shipping for a limited time if you sign up for this, but you can also level up and you unlock awards. Right now they have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. You can see what you get for each of these. Level 2, for instance, you get 200 Twitch bits, which you can use on your favorite show. But they're also going to be announcing the remaining levels throughout the next, very soon, I guess. They've been teasing it. I don't know the timeline, or if I do, I'm not allowed to say it. So go check out GameFuel. Sign up for their Victory Pass. It's very helpful if you do. And use code Travis so you save 10% off your order at checkout. Sorry, 5% of your order at checkout. And make sure you get, I think the Victory Pass, again, if you sign up soon, I want to say, join Victory Pass rewards for free shipping on all GameFuel orders. There you go. It's out at the top. So thank you so much to GameFuel for sponsoring the show. We really appreciate them. And now we can bring back our sponsor-conflicted Spawn to the show. Hello, Spawn. Welcome back. Glad to have you awake again. Wait, we can't hear you.
I think I just blacked out for a second. What happened?
Yeah. You're good. You're good. Navigating increasing complexities around all this stuff. Is Kelby trying to tell me something that I missed? He says important. Oh no, he's just making his own stuff. All right, Mark, we're ready for the next caller. Oh, he's grabbing him right now.
Laughing at the next caller, apparently.
Naked Homeless Man, thank you for the 37 months. Love and Flow, got you both. Space Pope 20K, thank you for the 6 months. And then Akira NB gifted a sub to the Mark Z as well. Mark once more a sub to the channel. I don't know. Mark, how many months have you been a sub without having paid for it once?
I don't know. How do I check that?
I don't know.
Type something in hover. 28.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Sick.
Fantastic.
Sub for 28 months. None of those have come from my wallet.
Wait. Space Pope 20K, who just subbed a second ago, is now on the show.
Why do you think I pulled him?
That's
how we do business here.
I don't make it that way. Okay. Space Pope, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from essentially the middle of nowhere in Michigan, surrounded by snow.
Middle of nowhere. How's your stuff going?
I had to dig my car out of the snow. It was up to my door handle on all 4 sides.
Wow. That is wild. That is wild.
Yeah, it must be a cold winter out there in LA, bud.
You know, anyway, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so I want to preface, because I'm coming in hot with a spicy take for you, chat. This is gonna be a very conflicting, polarizing take, I think. But before I even say it, because some people overlook it, I don't want to discredit the amount of work that professional players put into this game. I've coached like amateur teams, like Masters Cap teams, GM Cap teams and stuff, but I want to say that I think tactical is overrated. I'm over the hype personally. I think he was gifted a silver spoon and won the lottery to come up playing under CoreJJ. I think that same split, you could have taken Johnson and put him on that team and he would be an even better player, but his development has been stunted by like middle of the road teams, and you could have plug and played dozens of natural North American 80 carries into that organization and yielded the same if not better results.
Spawn, just tell me how great FBI would be on that team.
Spawn,
you know?
Insane.
Spawn is never coming on the show again. We made him sit through 30 minutes of us talking about his boss and how we disagreed strongly with his boss. We got sponsor conflicts on here. We got people coming on insulting his boys. This is the last. Spawn, I appreciate the time that you've had on the show, and I've always appreciated the episodes. I'm sorry.
No, this is fine, Travis. This is, you know what's the caller's name? Space Pope?
Space Pope
20K.
This is actually why I enjoy this show, Travis, because you, sir, are a gentleman and a scholar. You give the great unwashed, the masses, the filth of the street, a platform to come on and share their ideology. And if nothing else, it's entertaining. Like, I don't agree with a lot of the takes, but if nothing else, it is entertaining.
I mean, I think Mark and I one of the reasons we enjoy the show is you get takes here you'll not get on any other show. Even an
the
LS
one thing
show.
I will say is I am a showman through and through, and I really respect the way that Space Pope 20K shot his shot. It was a good shot. It got a reaction. Like I respect the shot. I respect the delivery of the shot.
Well, should we give?
But what about the content of the shot,
Yeah,
Spawn?
yeah.
What's your thoughts on
I
the
think
content?
Obviously, I think he's incorrect. I think Eddie is a really talented player. I think that he came across from TSM Academy, where he was a really talented carry. TL Academy. I mean, you only have to look at the results from Split 1 to Split 2 to see what impact a player like Tactical can have on a team. And then I think it is also just farcical to say they removed Double Lift and could have replaced him with anyone and then come first in regular season. Give me a break. I don't think that's a justifiable stance to take. Is Johnson talented? Yes. Is there 12 80 carriers like Eddie in NA? Absolutely not. I disagree with the take, but once again, the presentation, how he went about it, I think it was well presented.
Well, let's give a couple more. Let's give a little bit more. Space Pope, do you have additional arguments or context, or did you just want to sort of throw that out there?
Yeah. So, Spawn, I appreciate it, and I like your content. I think you're a great caster. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna heavily disagree with you here. To say that the difference between that spring and summer split with and without double lift, going, we replace double lift with anyone and we get first place, you could have put the cap for Kobe in 80 carry and that team's winning first place in summer split.
But what about TLA having such a turn away around from Split 1 to Split 2 with Tactical going up? You're explaining half the equation, but you're not explaining the other half, right?
So you're saying Team Liquid Academy benefited from removing Tactical?
No, I'm saying in Split 1, they were... if we just pull up the stats real quickly, because I don't have them off the top of my head, but let's just go for it.
You're making the argument that TLA performed really well with Tactical on the team as well.
Well,
Spawn?
yeah. Well, they went 10-8 Split 1. Is that what they went? I mean, they were I think they removed him halfway through, and they were over 50%, and then they remove him, and the team obviously goes steadily downhill. And then in Split 2, they are bottom of the ladder, having removed Tactical. I think that they're you're missing a lot of the equation. That it's not one team got better and the team he left just stayed the exact same. There was drop off in the Team Liquid Academy as well as soon as Tactical left. I don't have the page in front of me, but it definitely there definitely was a drop off when Tactical left Team Liquid Academy for sure.
Okay.
I think.
I mean, go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say I'm definitely on Spawn side with this one. I think Tactical is insane. I think I've seen more out of Tactical than I've seen out of Johnson or some of the other people that you might throw in there. I think the summer split playoffs performance on that Callista game was absolutely out of this world. I think he's had some incredible performances at Worlds, and actually hard carried some of those games. I think he's legit. I don't want to disagree with the point that hey, CoreJJ is probably helping a lot. I think there's some truth in what you're saying. That CoreJJ is an absolute monster. You look at some of their 2v2 kills from the lock-in tournament, and I could be spoon-fed some of those kills, But that doesn't make Tactical bad just because his lane mate is a beast, right? And I think there's times where you see Tactical skill on display independent from CoreJJ. But some of those lane things, sure, anyone with a functioning brain and two hands would follow up on CoreJJ's playmaking.
So that's not totally far and away from the truth to what I'm saying. And I apologize, Spawn, if I misunderstood what you're saying with TLA for a moment. I'll be honest, I don't follow Academy very much.
Who does?
Well, I mean, I have friends who coach in the Dutch league and German leagues, and but yeah, NA Academy I don't always follow. But at any rate, what I'm trying to say is not that Tactical has not grown into being a good player, okay? And it's not that an Academy team is worsened by losing a good player. And, Spawn, if you have it up still, who did they replace him with on that Academy team?
I think Rikara was the 80 carry that came in.
Right. And so when you take a player, so let's say you would have put FBI, let's say you would have put Johnson, I think, there are going to be playstyle differences significantly then and now, right? If we have a time machine. that are different between Johnson, Tactical, and FBI. Absolutely. I think Tactical is the most hyphy of the 3 players, and I think that fits when you have such a skilled support. But like, if you would have switched roles, I know I mentioned Johnson, so I'm just going to use it again. If you put Tactical and Alframu together at that same time period, and this is not to discredit Alframu's knowledge of the game, but I think the mechanical skill is a shortcoming. It's not there to shore up those weaknesses, whereas Johnson is more of a controlled player, right? FBI, I think, is a wonderful mix of the two, and I think he's a more complete player in a vacuum, isolated from the 3. And if you were to put FBI in a situation where he was playing with Core, considering, as you've said, how coachable he is, that his ceiling would have grown beyond where Tactical is at now. So again, like, I think Tactical is an excellent player currently, but I'm tired of the narrative that he's like the best NA ADC, that he's like a monster, that he's first team LCS, because I just don't even think that he's the top 4 ADC in the league right now, import or not, right? And like, sure, we all can kind of agree that Core is nuts, but that spring split with Double Lift, you know, I'm not on the team, I'm not in those rooms, you know, but Double Lift was removed from that org for, you know, some like a list of reasons. I'm not trying to go too deep into that rabbit hole, but that team was not playing at 100% in spring, not even close, right? I think that team, even with Double Lift, wins that summer split going through again, right? I think that. What's that?
Nothing. Go ahead.
I think that Core in particular, right, is still an international, like, world-class player coming fresh out of playing with Ruler to NA. I was insanely hyped. The dude's an animal. And you can put him on the international stage, and he still competes with the best supports out there. I would argue that he's even better than currently any LPL support in the league, like over in China right now.
Mark, let me ask you, do you think Tactical has been underperforming recently?
I mean, yeah, I don't think he's had a great couple weeks. I think like the Senna game was a little lackluster. There's another game where I think they killed 2v2 in lane once or twice. I think they're really aggressive bot lane. Sometimes their plays aren't going to work out and stuff. It hasn't been the dominance from like their Samira Leona in lock-in tournament. I think they 2v2 killed their opponent in like 7 out of their first 8 games or something fucking wild, you know, and like that's just not going to keep up. that is like not possible to do that often, assuming the other teams are competent. So like I think the drop off from what we were seeing was a little expected, because if you're saying, oh, is he underperforming relative to that level, like yes, because that's not a sustainable level. But I do think he's been a little worse than even a normal expected drop off would have been. But I don't think I think the bot lane meta is changing. Like a lot of the changes are coming through. There's nerfs, there's item changes and stuff. I think it's adaptation period. There's support champions down there right now, like Seraphine and mages being played in the bot lane. So
if you don't have Tactical CoreJJ carries of the league, I question whether you have, like, we were talking about the eye patch gang and the one eye blind gang. Like, you either have to have like you're a mixture of everything if you don't have him as a top 380 carry of the league right now, right?
Space Pope, quick question: how much of this has been based off of what you've seen from Tactical very recently?
Not at all. In fact,
okay.
This is coming from basically day one to now of his pro play. I watch all the LCS games.
The only reason I bring it up is so that I can plug my interview with him, where he said that he's been very burned out lately. I think this was an interview that went live. I think I did it with him on Friday, so maybe it went live Monday. And he was just talking about how he's felt very burned out, and TL's been helping him with it, and that's why he thinks his performance has been lower. So had it been recent and with Mark stuff, I think that's relevant information, right? Is that perhaps he's underperforming right now based off of some stuff he's going through. But I don't know. Spawn, go back at it if you want to.
Yeah, no, I mean...
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, Mark, if you want to go for it, you can.
I was going to say big agree on top 3 in the league. I would say maybe some people have had better games so far in spring specifically, but if you count Lock-in, there's no way he's not top 3.
Who are your 3 right now, Mark?
I think everyone should have Zen, FBI, Tactical, excuse me.
Yeah. And the thing is, right, and like I would just say this, and everyone hates when I do this. Like I did this last time with Fudge, and everyone was like, "Wow, what an idiot counting OPL." But FBI has played like 3 competitive seasons in Oceania, has gone to like MSI during that, has played like playoff series and everything. Then he comes to NA and he plays 2 full years in NA. Like Tactical has 3 years before he's had the same amount of competitive experience as FBI, like in a tier 1 league. And like the thing is like you can shit can OS as much as you want, but like when FBI was playing in OS, Lost was there, Raze was there, and King was there. So we had really good 80 carries. How do I know that? Because they're now all in North America and they're all performing really well. So like FBI has got 5 years of competitive experience. Sven has got 5 or 6 years of competitive experience. This is Tactical's 2nd year, and I think for a 2nd year player, he looks really damn good. Like,
I mean, how do you feel about Raze on, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, over on Immortals? Like, giving him the same chance, like, had he the opportunity to be in Tactical shoes 2 seasons ago, or 2 years ago, whatever.
Yeah, and I'm so like for those watching that haven't watched OPL, I used to call Raze a perfect player. In OS, like this guy
I
made very
agree
little
with you.
mistakes,
He's
right?
insane.
Yeah, but he cannot do the things mechanically that Tactical can do. And that's me having a lot of respect for Raze. We actually saw a world that in scenarios where Raze is forced to outplay, he got caught out, and that Tristana versus Bard game was one of the funniest Tristana games of all time. He just gets caught out multiple times, right? And arguably nearly cost Legacy that game, where like Tactical, he's not the same kind of beast. Like if you put him in a situation where he has to mechanically perform, like he's 9 out of 10 times he's got your back. Like I think the dude's a beast. So I do think Raze is good, but I think Tactical, FBI, those kind of players are different kind of animals just because of their mechanical ceilings.
Well, Space Pope, I don't think Mark or Spawn agree with you. So I'm sorry to say.
Okay.
Maybe
The
a little
take, I
unsurprising
knew
on the
was
Spawn
hot.
thing, but really expected that he would say Tactical is unworthy or undeserving of his job. But I appreciate. I mean, I guess time will tell, Space Pope, because theoretically, like if he can't step up, or if TL's losing and he becomes a liability, then you would be right.
So part of the take is a miss. I mean, I think that of course he's doing well now because he was brought into, like, at the time the winningest org currently in the LCS with what is, in my opinion, you can't convince me he's not a top 10 support in the world at any level in any region with Core, right? To have like a silver spoon like that fed to him, of course he's developed into a good player. My stance is that you could have taken other players, put them in the same position, and they would have substantially surpassed Tactical by now.
I mean, it's hard to have a discussion around it, right? Because it's such a theoretical. But either way, appreciate it. I know we're running a little low on time, so we're going to move on to the next caller. But is there anything you want to shout out before we move on?
I mean, yeah, shout out to the OS boys coming over. They're good players, legitimately. But shout out to my World of Warcraft guild. We got AOTC. We're all boomers and can't play all the time, so nice.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Well, by the way, I think I'm going to try and co-stream the BlizzCon opening ceremony on Friday. Maybe I can convince Kelby or somebody to do that with me. I don't know. But you just made me think about it. Thanks, Spaceboat, for the call.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have a good night.
Yeah, have a good one. Kelby, if you're still in the chat, you want to co-stream the BlizzCon opening ceremony with me? Because I have rights, or I have permission to co-stream it. I don't know if everyone does, but I've been told I have it. So I don't know if every Twitch streamer can do it, but I'd be down. I mean, I think I can co-stream the entire event, but it's on an LCS day, so on Friday. So I think I'm going to do it Friday morning. If you don't have meetings or something, Kelby, you should join me. Raz's MVP is on the line. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the middle of nowhere.
Oh, okay. Got my hand over the kick button. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So, before I go into my take, I just want to say that I am against the LCS import changes, but I have like a different perspective on it than some other people are bringing to the table.
Okay.
So my take is that imports bring in viewership to the region. They don't bring it down. However, when we go at this, we have to remember that there are certain conditions with this. First off, the imports have to be good. And second off, they have to interact with the community. So these imports are only going to be complained about in esports when one of these two conditions isn't met. Nobody's complaining about Perks or CoreJJ coming as imports to our region. They're complaining about players that are the bottom of the barrel in the league, like Aka, Ryoma, who are literally the bottom of the barrel. And it just seems sometimes it's an other excuse. It's because only because they're bad are you complaining about them being an import. If they were good, you wouldn't complain about them being an import. And second off, there's this narrative that if we lift import restrictions, we'll just end up with 5 like Korean or Chinese players on a team that don't really interact with the community at large. And I don't know if this narrative is right, but I think if the imports interact with the community and make the effort to play, they will be embraced by NA. CoreJJ has done a beautiful job of this recently, with like his tweets, his streams, with the what's it called, the off season like in-houses. Yeah. So if you really engage with the community, people will accept you. If you're sort of distant from the community, you don't really engage with them, people aren't going to be as welcoming of you. But if you do both, if you both play well and engage with the community, you will be accepted by the region. I think it's very, very disingenuous to say that imports are going to lower viewership if we get them. That will only happen if they don't meet these conditions. But if we're importing good players that engage with the community, it's only going to drive viewership up. Did Perks coming to LCS decrease viewership? No, it increased it.
So I think one of the problems with a comparison like this is that you're talking about two different environments. Because in one environment, a imported player coming over is off-season hype news. It's this new player that it's like almost like a big shiny toy. Like, look at this awesome thing we just got. And in the world like that, there's a limited number of times that's happening in the off-season. I think it's a different environment if you're talking about a full set of teams could just be imported or something, which is more of the concern that people have. For me, like, I don't care in those examples with Aka or Ryoma or some of the people who have gotten flack from the community. I think people were upset that North American talent wasn't being given a shot over them because they didn't feel like there was a big enough gap to qualify that. But I don't think that that's really the same argument that someone would be making if the entire league was facing a potential situation. And I don't think the entire league would. You know, like teams like Golden Guardians would not be able, in their current financial situation, just go grab a ton of imported players or stuff like that. But I think the concern for fans is in a situation where the top 3 teams of your league have 0 North American players and they're the ones at Worlds, how do you as a fan connect with that? And it's not about understanding them. I bet these teams would pump out a lot of content around them. I'm sure they would do interviews and TSM Legends and Team Liquid, whatever the hell it's called now, Marvel Sellout. Well, I don't know. Like the content would still happen and that they would still do well. I think both of those conditions that you're talking about would be met. But in this new environment where there's 0 North American players potentially on your best teams, not the entire league, but just the ones that you're actually sending competitively that you want to rally behind, that you're going to pop off when Licorice goes to semifinals, I don't think people will connect with them. And I think that's where a lot of fans, at least in the polls that Travis has done so far, have said that, like, I would not connect with a team like that. I would not connect if TL went out and bought Damwon because their pockets are deeper or something, you know, or like a situation like that.
I mean, we don't have to go too far to see how this works. C9, in their first year of being in Overwatch League, got the London slot, created London Spitfire, a team of full Korean players. And it's just... What?
They won.
Yeah.
Didn't they? They won the year.
Yeah, I think so. I think they won the first year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think of that stuff. And yes, you're right that I think they make content. Like, I've heard, I think Bjergsen is a pretty good example because I've seen people say, like, well, Bjergsen is an import and, like, he's really popular. Bjergsen came to a team that was Odd1, who was all on that team? Odd1, Dyrus, Special, and Was it
Was it
Chaos?
Wild?
No.
Wild,
Oh, Wild
Turtle.
Turtle. Wild Turtle, yeah. I think part of the reason Bjergsen became really popular was because he was placed on that team. Obviously, he's really great. And obviously, a lot of people who watch League now don't know any of those names. But putting that player in an environment, that's actually why I love the import rule the way it is right now, is we have, like, CoreJJ can come in to a team that, like, Double Lift is on. Okay, Jack in chat says and had some of the highest following in the league. Jack, we should talk about this stuff. Jack, if you want to come on the next Hotline League, let me know. Yeah, I'll see you in the media interviews tomorrow. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, CoreJJ coming to the league, doing really great, but also being on a team that has Double Lift on it, has players who have been in the league for quite some time. Those players helped, I think, CoreJJ become more popular than he would have. I think, I don't know. I think mixing the players and having this sort of rule where you have a little bit of both is actually what's most ideal. And that's why I'm never arguing against having imports in the league, or players that come across from different regions. We got to figure out a better terminology. I always feel weird when I call them imports, but
yeah. Spawn has his hand up.
Okay, Spawn.
Teacher calls on Spawn.
Okay, so I have no take on this, but I just want to ask a question, and this is a genuine question to the caller. Is FBI a successful import?
He is a successful import.
Okay, cool. So do you know the gap between FBI and the other 80 carries in the league was not the same gap between Ryoma and the other mid laners in the OPL? The year that FBI went to MSI and got picked up by Golden Guardians, Ryoma was considered so much better than every other mid laner in the OPL that, like, it was like, if you did not throw 2 or 3 bans or specifically craft a strategy to take this guy out, that the Bombers, the team he was on, was just going to run over the top of you. Whilst I can respect everything you're saying, like, the FBI versus Ryoma narrative is so infuriating as an OS fan. Like, Tommy, like, he didn't come over and perform well, but to say that this was just like a shot in the dark that 100 Thieves took and like he was shit or whatever, like, it's just like incredibly infuriating as an OS fan, because everyone's like, why didn't they just get another great OS import like FBI? And it was like, domestically, this guy was like FBI plus of mid lane. He was like so good, and that's why all OS fans will always get pissed off when Ryoma gets thrown in the bad import case. And like, I do think that you do miss a lot of context, because FBI, when he first came to Golden Guardians, was like incredibly underwhelming. He actually was put back into Academy, then he had to grow his way back up, and he had to learn a couple of things. And Ryoma so far in Academy this year, I think if he isn't considered like one of the best mid laners in Academy, his team's third on the ladder, and he's doing incredibly well. And it's just like, it's such a shitty argument about imports when they use FBI.
I get what Spawn. I get what you're saying, dude. It's like, from a decision-making at the time standpoint, importing Ryoma seemed like a good choice. It did not pan out.
It didn't pay out. Like, he should have got dropped back to Academy. But like, to just like the flack that guy gets. Oh, poor Tommy. I love you so much, Tommy.
Right, and I think, you know, like, those aren't the concerns that Ryoma and Aka face are not the same concerns that people who are against changing the restrictions. That's not what they're really worried about. They're not worried about. I mean, part of them are worried about homegrown talent and how many opportunities they're going to have, but I think they're also worried about what does a world look like where all your top teams are just import players and like identifying.
Like, our fans less, even if these players are interacting with the audience. Let's just push it to the extreme, right? Because I think it's important to, like, when you are lifting a rule that allows for anything to happen, let's push it to the extreme. Let's say Cloud9, TL, and fuck it, let's say CLG. All 3 of these teams, the moment that this rule is lifted, or the first year that this rule is lifted, they go and pick up entire teams, like a tier 4. Sorry. Like a 4th place LPL team, a 3rd place LCK team, and like a 4th place LEC team. There's a pretty good chance, I think, if you had those 3 rosters, that you would be able to get top 3 with all those teams in the LCS. If that happens and our Worlds lineup are these 3 rosters, and like the DeMontes of the world and the FBIs of the world are not attending. And I know FBI, we were just talking, like, I think a lot of people consider him to be whatever. Anyway, those players are not at all making it to Worlds. I think it's going to feel really shitty. And like, you can have team owners tell you, well, we wouldn't do something like that. And it's like, okay, then let's make sure that the rules don't allow something like that if that's something you guys are not interested in, to like assuage the concerns of people like myself and fans, etc.
And I think it's complicated because people often talk past here. Like in chat, Jack was just saying, you know, like, oh, well, look at TL. They have so many imported players. But from a fan's perception, Jensen never played in EU competitively. He is someone who basically is his whole career is NA. And in that sense,
uses Rookie though, Mark, because look at Rookie. Rookie he won LCK. He was a great player in LCK, but a lot of Chinese fans or LPL fans or whatever you want to call them would now consider Rookie an LPL player. He does his Mandarin.
That's exactly what I'm saying, Spawn. I'm actually agreeing with you. I'm saying that players who get brought in and are invested in the scene. Rookie learned Chinese, like you're saying. He did a lot of stuff.
It's not about, to me, it's not about where you start your career. Like, I don't care if CoreJJ played in Korea and then, you know, played in NA, then went back to Korea, then came to NA. Like, CoreJJ's fiance or wife is here. He's going for his green card. To me, he is like a North American player. Like, I just think like the starting your career in NA bit is the part of the conversation that I wish we would just abandon because of the rookies, the CoreJJs, the people like
right.
I think Mark was
saying
just
everyone
Jensen
has
as an
to.
example. Yeah.
I'm not saying everyone has to start in this region. I'm saying that's an example of why Jensen doesn't count as an import. Rookie would be another example of someone who I wouldn't really count as an import. And people who, if there's a path to go and change your region, so to speak, like what happened with old grandfather rules with Impact, I'm fine. Like Impact to me is an NA player. What fans, I believe, are concerned about is the idea that the floodgates, quote unquote, would just open and then there wouldn't be any sort of process to it. And you could just grab 5 players, 5 fresh new faces that have never competed in North America together. And I think that is the concern that they face, not that there's a path forward. Like, I'm super down with people like Santorin declaring. I'm super down with Jensen. I'm super down with Impact. Like, all that's fine with me. I don't have any problem with that. I think some of these other – I think the path is what is concerned, because if there's no path, then people don't have that opportunity to grow with Rookie.
No, I get also your point, because like the thing is that I see a lot of people on social media, and once again, chat, I have no horse in this race. I want to make that abundantly clear. But I just see a lot of people in social media using but they didn't play in another major region, and therefore they're this person. Like, I just think that that argument lacks finesse because of people like Rookie. Like the Rookie Doinby one is like really interesting to me, right? Because LPL fans are really passionate. They're both LPL players. And one of them started their career in LPL, the other one started their career in LCK, but they're piggyback together, and I just wish that was the case.
Jensen Bjergsen is the perfect comparison. Bjergsen played in EU. He played with Copenhagen Wolves and was great, and he got a penny kill, and people were like, this is the next young, amazing player. He was effectively the EU version of Rookie without, I think Rookie actually won something maybe, or at least made a finals.
Yeah, he won OGN summer.
Yeah, I knew he won something before going over. But, like, you know, it's a similar story where Jensen began his career in NA, Bjergsen came over a little bit earlier kind of thing. And so I think those are great examples of things that can work well.
Can I just say one thing really, really quickly? I'm sorry, Travis.
Say something.
But if one more person repeats that stupid Reddit quote of Jensen played for Team Solo Mebdi, I will literally brick myself on Travis's stream. Like, I know we all read it in the same Reddit article. It was great. But let's not all pretend that we were following Yamato Cannon's team trying to qualify for EU LCS in 2014 Reddit. We weren't there. We just all read the same Reddit line. It's great. We did some, like, Gamepedia-ing. Like, I don't remember that team. Mark, do you remember that team?
No, and I think
I liked it because the
initials in EU for a while before he was banned there too. That doesn't make him, you know.
I remember the team because its initials were TSM.
Yeah,
but I don't remember Incarnation being on it. I had to be reminded. The thing I wanted to say really quickly, harkening back to something that was said 3 or 4 minutes ago before Mark and Spawn argued about how they agreed, was that if we want to say TL is already an example of an import team that exists in the LCS, I would use them as an example of how creating import teams in the LCS will not bring us more success. Because when was the last time TL got us out of groups?
You mean MSI Finals 2 years ago?
Travis, don't do this to me, man. I don't like to shit on you on your own show.
Mark,
we took you the
they
reigning
did
world
make it-
champions.
Mark, I know they made it to MSI finals, but I don't remember anything that happened after that. I've purged that entire event from my brain. What happened once they got there? Anyway, caller, I think generally speaking, we agree with you that a player that cultivates a fan base and interacts with the LCS and has success is always going to be popular. I think Mark and myself at least, think that CoreJJ is a good example of that, whereas like 3 LMQs going to
Ninja from TDK.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much. Raz is MVP for the call. Sorry that we got in on all this stuff and kind of killed your conversation. Is there anything you want to say before we move on to our last call?
Yeah, there's a lot to say. I know we're limited
We're super low on
so-
time. I'm so sorry that
Yeah,
Spawn
we
and
don't
I
have time
decided to
for
go
it.
around in circles, but what,
I just want to I just want to say that I understand your points, and I think the main thing that people are scared about is the 5 imports coming in all together, but that's not necessarily what's going to happen. It might just be one more import on TL or C9 or 100 Thieves. Bottom teams can't afford these imports. They can't afford all of them. And before I go, I just want to throw a shout out to Raz. He's been pretty great on the AD and on the broadcast, and he's the best caster in the world, so we got to appreciate him.
very good. Thanks. Oh, he's gone. He left on his own. Unless you kicked him, Mark. Mark already left. Kelby gifted 5 subs. Thank you. Hitstreak gifted a sub to Kelby. Akira gifted a sub to Mark. Bearman gifted a sub to Best Mafia Jinx. MasterNamer is here from a dead fantasy series that will never be completed. Where are you calling from, MasterNamer?
How's it going, boys? I'm calling from Adelaide, Australia.
Adelaide, Australia. And I can tell you're calling from far away because I had to turn you up. The volume is struggling to get through here. You're good. What do you want to talk about on the show, MasterNamer?
Okay, so Mark didn't actually clarify, so I'm hoping I got the correct topic. I'm calling to talk about how in TSM's 3-0, Lost was actually the best player across all 3 games. He's also been the best player in TSM overall, and he will be contending with FBI and Sven for all pro slots.
Well, he's not a top 3 ADC, MasterNamer, according to the 2 experts I have on the show right now.
Not yet. No, not yet. Of course not. Look at the top 3 bot lanes at the moment. They've been playing together for a lot longer, and they play with, just a lot longer, much more synergy, a lot easier to look better in teams that have already got like some of their play style down pat from last year, in my opinion at least. But it's all about growth, long road ahead of them to spring finals.
Top 3 is tough, but I could see a world where it happens. I think Lost has been pretty good. Even a week and a half ago, I don't know why I say a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever, week 2, there was a game where he had like 50% DPS or DPM for his team, and when you watched him, it was pretty good. It was technically 41%. I don't know why I rounded up to 50. End of the show. I'm just like throwing fucking numbers out there. And watching that game, I thought he looked pretty good. He had like really aggressive positioning, and I think it punished him once or twice. But I also think the rest of the team was not really playing well in team fights. And it was like there's a time where Huni on Lulu just ran away from him, and he kited out really well. And it was like, wait, if you got some more Moonstone procs and like another shield on him, or like helped actually fight, you could have won. Huni actually flashed back in to try and save him in that play. I think there's some situations where I agree. I have not seen enough out of Lost yet to be like, this is really working, but I've seen the glimmers and the flashes to be like, this could work. And to your point about the synergy, it sounded like you're about to say his team sucks, and then you pulled back on it. I thought I heard you going down that hole a little bit. I think the whole of TSM is having that same kind of like synergy problem, and I don't think they're Team Liquid. I don't think they're C9 as just even on a talent level for the 5-man right now. So on that front, I don't think he's ever going to have the same weapons around him that Tactical might have. But I think Lost has looked pretty good so far.
Yeah, That was the CLG game that I think you're referencing, where like down at the bottom of the dragon, they got like clapped really early, and then Lost was like dodging everything. He cleanse flashed the Thresh box, got away from Camille, got Camille, and then Huni flashes late to
Try and save him, yeah.
Yeah. A couple of points. I think so. If we're looking at the top 3 bot lanes at the moment, without a doubt, 100 Thieves, Cloud9, Team Liquid, not in any order, but they've all been playing together for a while now. I think the 4th best bot lane, I don't really know who, doesn't really matter. I think the gap is that big that it doesn't matter between 3rd and 4th. But I think as like synergy builds between Lost and Sword Art, they might not be like a top 3 laning, but I think overall, like with Sword Art vision control, when he gets the knack for the roaming, I think they'll improve. And then I think Lost, just in general, as a team performs better, as they're getting better at drafts, will look much better, as we've seen like so far in the first 2 weeks. In 2 of their losses, one of the loss and the CLG game, so 5 out of the 6 games they've played, I think he's been the best or second best player on TSM. And I think it's not really been close. Huni's coin flip, Sword Art's kind of lagging. I don't know. It feels like he's warming up into the like how to play. Like he's that player that's going to look super, super bad when the team looks bad, but he's going to look good. So he's going to feed and do something, feed or do nothing, or just just look pretty average when the team's not doing too good. But I think at the end of the spring, definitely, I think Lost will be up there with his Australian brethren, FBI, top 3, representing us OC boys down here.
I love it because Lost is actually a Kiwi. What people don't know about Lost. Okay, so Lost goes through high school. He gets perfect results. His family wants him to become a doctor. And then Tim Carbon Wendell convinces him to join an organization called Legacy Esports in Oceania. And he says to my parents, like, please, parents, just give me a year. A coach called Noodlehead Smith, an Arrow, puts out a call. Golden Guardians are hosting open tryouts in North America. And he wants Lost to go over there and give it a crack. He gets picked up by Golden Guardians Academy and gets put into that ecosystem, does really well. He's kind of FBI before he's FBI, and finally gets put on TSM Academy. And then this year, with everything that happened in the off-season, gets his crack on TSM. As you can probably tell, I'm a huge Lost fan. When I built Order, if Lost was willing to come back to Australia, we would have taken it. This kid's incredibly smart. Echo Fox, not Golden Guardians. Sorry, Puff Smith, you were correct. The team that was Golden Guardians before Golden Guardians. Lost is incredibly smart, and that's his biggest attribute. You guys are talking about the way he plays the game. Like, he's just incredibly intelligent. He's a student of the game. Mechanically, he is up there with FBI as well. So I see absolutely nothing wrong with my Melbourne junior brother from Adelaide in saying that this guy could be a top 3 support because 80 carat, because he's really good.
Is New Zealand not part of Australia?
No. We like to claim them because any talented person that is from New Zealand will say is Australian, and then as soon as they're bad, we'll send them back to Kiwi land.
I don't. I just thought it would be great if you told this person's biography, and then I replied with a very ignorant geographical question.
But yeah, Lawrence is really good. I will agree with that. Lawrence is super good.
I love how you brought up like the. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, caller.
I love how you brought up like the, I'm not trying to be racist or anything, but like the stereotypical like Chinese like path to like life. You go through all the hard work, become a doctor, and then I don't know if you guys seen the meme like where I think it's Simpsons or like American Guy where the Chinese kid or like the Asian kid, he's like in the room and the dad comes and is like, "Are you doctor yet?" And it's like, "No, Dad," but then he says he's like done something else, and then he's like, "Come back when you're a doctor." And I can imagine like you like pop Lost's face and like the Chinese kid says, "Are you doctor yet?" "No, but I won LCS. I've gone to Worlds and I won Worlds." And then the dad be like, "Not good enough. Come back when you're a doctor." And then
I do know Lost parents are really, really supportive of him, but good.
MasterNamer, I'm so sorry we don't have very much time for the call to go on because we're 30 minutes over time, and Mark, I can already see the tension. His vein will burst if we don't wrap up soon. So is there anything you want to say? Is there anything you want to say before we wrap up the call, maybe about how it would be great if a 3rd book would come out? I don't know.
Patrick Rothfuss, you ruined my teenage years, but thankfully I found my new Lord and Savior, Brandon Sanderson. Amen.
Mistborn, what a great series. Mistborn is insane,
Fucking
right?
Spawn. Oh my god. Mark, did you see this stuff? Spawn thinks that. Oh my god. He doesn't. Spawn doesn't. Spawn didn't even know the name of Stormlight Archive. He thought it was
Stormlight
something else.
Archives. I
You
never
called it
Wayfarer
something else. You were like
Redemption.
the
That's a
red
different guy.
crossing.
When he comes
or
back
something.
to Australia, I'll educate him.
Thank you, MasterNamer. He needs the help. Anyway, thanks for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers.
Mark,
I could listen to
Mark
that
Mark's
accent
about
all
to
day.
explode. He wants to investigate this, but also wants the show to end. It's a very struggle for. A big
What?
struggle
That
for him.
Spawn thinks Mistborn's better than Stormlight Archive?
He thinks Stormlight Archive isn't even that good.
Okay, that's fair.
Oh my god, Mark really does want to get out of here. Nanuko 111, thank you for the
What?
25 months.
He can have his own opinion.
Horny
He
Jail
doesn't
for
like it.
Kaisa, thank you for the sub and for the 10 gifted subs. Horny Jail for Kaisa, you've got a great name. All right, let's wrap up the show.
Let me ask this, Spawn. Do you like anime?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I'm surprised you don't like Stormlight Archive then. It's just anime. It's anime in book form.
I refuse to get baited, chat. I'm not getting baited. Stormlight Archive is good. I'm 3/4 of the way through book 3. I'm going to read book 4 soon, and then I'm going to be in the cool club. I'm going
You'd
to come on
finished book
Travis's
3,
book
right?
channel, and I'm going to talk about it.
You finished book 3, right?
Oh yeah, I finished book 3.
You
when
and
it came out. I
Licorice
just-
both, by the way, should talk because you both are whatever. Mark, what do you got first? What do you want to shout out?
Nothing.
fun.
I've been
Oh.
having a lot of fun doing TFT casting with Kobe. If you guys haven't seen it, we've been doing them on Wednesdays at noon. Check those out if you're a TFT player. They're a lot of fun.
Spawn.
I want to shout out Mark Zed because
Big agree.
he's a good guy, and I just love the progressive descent into madness that this show is every time I come on, because we always go over. Maybe we should have a couple of less callers when I'm
It's
on. I don't
because
know.
it's because you and I actually go back and forth a fair amount and have good conversations. And so I usually pull a lot of people, and we sometimes get those 5-minuters where it's just like, yep, okay. And then we don't get that with you, so I pull too many people.
I think part of it is you guys will argue over the same thing like you were earlier with the Jensen Bjergsen thing. And I'm just sitting here like, wait, can we get back to the call? Anyway, I want to shout out Spawn because 5 minutes before the show was supposed to start, he popped up in the chat and said, Spawn is the best guest. And I said, Spawn, do you want to come on the show? And he said, sure. And that he dodged his league game he was getting into, ran upstairs, and got on the computer. And that's how Spawn ended up on the show. So I thought that was pretty cool. Thank you, Spawn, for doing this last minute. Mark for rescheduling to Wednesday, which I do really appreciate. And be sure to tune in on my YouTube channel and my Twitter for all the stuff around the media days and the team owner stuff. Mark, podcast listeners can't see this, but Mark is literally having a seizure right now. So we're going to wrap up the show. This has been Hotline League, episode 160.